A poor woman walks into a billionaire's trap, but the joke's about to backfire in ways no one saw coming. When Lena Hart showed up at Manhattan's most exclusive restaurant, she thought she was meeting a wealthy suitor. When Adrian Cole arrived expecting a setup date, he found a woman his world had already decided to destroy. What happened next wasn't supposed to happen at all. Two strangers, two cruel pranks, one impossible night that would shatter everything they thought they knew about power, pride. And who gets to decide what a person is worth? Stay with me until the end, hit that like button, and drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. The reservation was under the name Cole. Just that. One word that carried enough weight in New York City to make restaurant managers straighten their spines and sommeliers sweat through their vests. Adrian Cole stepped out of the black Mercedes sedan onto the rain-slicked pavement of East 63rd Street, his Italian leather shoes making no sound despite the puddles gathering at the curb. The October wind cut through the canyon of buildings, sharp enough to make lesser men hunch their shoulders, but Adrian had learned a long time ago that posture was half the battle. Stand like you own the block, and eventually you will. He did own this block, or at least the building 3 doors down. Sir? His driver, Marcus, had already come around with the umbrella, a gesture Adrian tolerated because Marcus had been with him since before the money got stupid, back when they were just 2 kids from Brooklyn trying to make something happen. I'll text when I'm done. Adrian's voice was low, the kind of quiet that made people lean in rather than ask him to repeat himself. This is the cousin thing? Marcus asked, one eyebrow raised. Don't start. I'm just saying, last time Dominic set you up... Marcus. The driver grinned, unrepentant. Text me when you need extraction. Adrian walked toward the entrance of Oriole, where a doorman in a long coat was already pulling open the heavy glass door. The warm air inside smelled like money, truffle oil, aged wine, fresh orchids that cost more than most people's car payments. The kind of place where the breadbasket was plated art and the waiters could pronounce amuse-bouche without sounding like assholes. He hated these places, but he'd learned to move through them like he belonged. Mr. Cole. The hostess appeared instantly, her smile professionally warm. Your table is ready. The other party hasn't arrived yet. Other party? Adrian managed not to let the irritation show. Dominic had been annoyingly vague about tonight, which meant it was going to be a disaster. His cousin had a talent for disasters disguised as favors. She led him through the main dining room, past tables where couples leaned into candlelight, and business deals happened over Wagyu beef. The private dining area was in the back, separated by frosted glass panels that let in light but kept out noise. Intimate, expensive. Exactly the kind of place Dominic would pick for whatever scheme he was running. Adrian checked his watch. 7:15. He'd give this mystery date until 7:30, then he was out. He was reviewing quarterly projections on his phone when he heard it. A voice, female, talking to someone near the entrance of the private area. Not the polished Manhattan accent he'd expected. Something softer, rounder at the edges. I'm sorry. I think there's been some kind of mistake. I'm supposed to meet... someone told me... Adrian looked up. The woman standing near the entrance wasn't what he expected, not even close. She was maybe 30, wearing a coat that had seen better years and holding a small purse that she gripped like a shield. Her dark hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, and her face... He noticed her face because she wasn't wearing the armor of makeup that most women wore to places like this. Just some lipstick, maybe. Her eyes were wide, brown, scanning the room like she'd walked onto the wrong movie set. She looked terrified, and somehow also furious. The hostess was speaking in low, apologetic tones. I'm sorry, miss, but this is a private dining reservation. If you could just... I was told to come here. The woman's voice was steadier now, a thread of steel running through it. Someone called my office yesterday. They said a Mr. Westfield made a reservation and requested I meet him here at 7. I have it written down. Westfield. Adrian knew that name. Gregory Westfield was a venture capitalist who'd been sniffing around one of Adrian's tech acquisitions. But more importantly, Westfield was exactly the kind of asshole who'd pull a stunt like this. The hostess glanced toward Adrian, clearly unsure how to handle this. He made a decision he'd probably regret. It's fine, Adrian said, standing. She's with me. Both women turned to look at him. The hostess recovered first, her professional smile clicking back into place. Of course, Mr. Cole, I'll bring another menu. But the woman, Lena, he'd find out later, Lena Hart from a town in Ohio he'd never heard of, just stared at him like he'd spoken in another language. I'm sorry, she said. Adrian walked toward her, keeping his movements slow, non-threatening. Up close, he could see the tension in her shoulders, the way her knuckles had gone white around her purse strap. Fight or flight, and she hadn't decided which yet. "You were set up," he said quietly, stating facts. "Someone at your office thought it would be funny to send you here. Tell you some rich guy wanted to meet you, watch you show up, then laugh about it tomorrow." Her face went through several emotions in rapid succession: confusion, understanding, humiliation, rage. She settled on rage, which Adrian respected. "How do you know that?" "Because I was set up too." He gestured toward the table. "My cousin has an unfortunate sense of humor. He told me I was meeting someone for a business dinner. Sent me the reservation, the whole thing. Except there's no business dinner, is there? Just whatever elaborate prank he and his idiot friends cooked up." Lena looked at the table, then back at him, then at the hostess, who was pretending not to listen. "So we're both here because other people are terrible," she said. "Looks like it." She started laughing, not the polite laugh people used at parties. A real laugh, the kind that came from your stomach, tinged with something that might have been tears if she'd let them come. "That's just—" She pressed her hand to her mouth. "God, that's perfect. That's so perfectly awful." Adrian found himself almost smiling. "You hungry?" "What?" "Well, I made a reservation, paid a deposit. Food here's supposed to be decent." He paused. "And if we both leave now, whoever set us up wins. I don't like losing." She studied him for a long moment. He could see her working through it, the risk, the absurdity, the sheer strangeness of the situation. A smart woman. He could tell by the way her eyes moved, calculating. "You're really a billionaire," she said. Not a question. "Really? And you don't know me? Never seen you before in my life. So why are you inviting me to stay?" Adrian considered the question. Several answers presented themselves. "Because you look like you've had a shit day. Because I'm curious. Because something about you seems real in a way most people in my life stopped being a long time ago." He went with, "Because the risotto here is supposed to be incredible, and I hate eating alone." Lena looked at him for another beat. Then she did something that surprised him. She took off her worn coat, draped it over her arm, and walked to the table. "Okay," she said, sitting down. "But I'm ordering dessert too." The first 20 minutes were excruciating. Not because of Lena. She handled herself fine, better than fine. She knew which fork to use, how to navigate a menu where nothing was priced and half the ingredients were in French. But Adrian could see the effort it took, the way she kept her spine straight and her hands steady even though she wanted to bolt. "So," she said, after the waiter had taken their orders and retreated, "do you do this often? Rescue random women from public humiliation?" "First time, actually. Usually I'm causing the humiliation." Her eyebrows went up. "Honest, I like that. I'm a real estate developer. Honesty is a luxury I can't always afford, so I use it when I can." He leaned back in his chair. "What do you do?" "I'm a design assistant." She said it flatly, like she was reciting a fact that bored her. "At an architectural firm downtown. Mostly I make copies and fetch coffee, but technically my title is design assistant." "Technically. Yeah. They hired me because the portfolio I sent was good. Then I got there and realized they wanted someone to do the shit work while the actual architects took credit." She stopped, looking embarrassed. "Sorry, that was true? Bitter. True and bitter aren't mutually exclusive." Adrian picked up his wine glass, studying her. "What kind of design?" "Community spaces, mostly. Public buildings, libraries, rec centers, places where people actually live instead of just work." Her whole face changed when she talked about it, the guardedness falling away. "I know it's not sexy, not like condos in Tribeca or whatever, but I think there's something, I don't know, important about making beautiful spaces for people who don't usually get beautiful things." The waiter arrived with their first course. Adrian waited until he left before speaking. "You got a portfolio?" Lena's fork stopped halfway to her mouth. "Why?" "Because I'm about to break ground on a community center in Red Hook. $30 million project, mixed use, meant to serve the neighborhood I grew up in, and my lead designer just quit to take a job in Dubai." "You're not serious. I don't joke about real estate." She set down her fork. "Mr. Cole, Adrian. Adrian, I appreciate what you're doing. This dinner, the conversation, all of it. But I don't need charity." "Good, I'm not offering any." He met her eyes. "I'm offering to look at your work. If it's good, maybe we talk. If it's not, we finish dinner and go our separate ways. That's not charity, that's business." Lena stared at him. He could see her working through it, trying to figure out the angle, the catch. In her world, there was always a catch. "My work is good," she said finally. "Then send it to me." Just like that. Just like that. She picked up her wine glass, took a sip, set it down with careful precision. "Okay, yes, thank you. Don't thank me yet. I'm an asshole to work for." That surprised a laugh out of her. Good to know. They ate, talked. The conversation flowed easier now, moving from work to neighborhoods to the small, sharp observations that make up a life. Adrian learned that Lena had grown up in a town called Millfield, Ohio, population 2,000, where her dad had worked at a factory until it closed. That she'd put herself through community college taking night classes while working at a diner. That she'd come to New York 3 years ago with $800 in her pocket and a belief that talent mattered more than connections. "Turns out I was wrong about that," she said, finishing her second glass of wine. The alcohol had brought color to her cheeks, loosened something in her shoulders. Talent matters, but connections matter more. In my experience, you need both. Must be nice to have both. I didn't always. Adrian signaled for another bottle. My dad was a contractor, good guy, terrible businessman. Lost everything when the housing market crashed in 2008. I was 19 watching him try to hold it together, and I realized something. What? That being good at something isn't enough. You have to be ruthless too. He poured wine into her glass, then his. So I got ruthless. Worked construction during the day, took business classes at night, saved every cent until I could buy my first property. A shithole in Bed-Stuy that nobody wanted. Fixed it up, flipped it, used the profit to buy 2 more. And now you're a billionaire. Now I'm a billionaire who still remembers what it's like to eat ramen for a week straight because the alternative is not eating at all. Lena tilted her head, studying him. You trying to tell me we're the same? No, I'm trying to tell you I know what it costs to get out, and I know most people don't make it. Something shifted in her expression. My coworkers, the ones who sent me here tonight, they wanted me to fail. Not just tonight, in general. They wanted me to show up, get humiliated, quit in shame, go back to Ohio with my tail between my legs. Why? Because I'm not like them. She said it simply. I didn't go to the right schools, don't have the right connections. My clothes come from Target, not Bergdorf's, and they can smell it on me, that I don't belong. Adrian knew that smell, had spent years trying to wash it off his own skin. So prove them wrong, he said. By taking your charity job? By doing the best work of your life and making them watch. Lena's smile was sharp. You really are an asshole. I warned you. They ordered dessert, talked about architecture, about neighborhoods, about the way cities grew and changed and forgot the people who built them. Adrian told her about his daughter, Emma, 5 years old, currently with her grandmother, while he pretended to have a life beyond work and parenting. Her mom? Lena asked carefully. Died. Car accident 2 years ago. I'm sorry. Don't be. We weren't together when it happened. Hadn't been for a while. But Emma's mine, and that's what matters. He pushed his half-eaten chocolate tureen around his plate. Being a single parent, billionaire or not, it's the hardest thing I've ever done. Lena's face softened. I bet you're good at it. I'm terrible at it, but I show up. That's something. When the check came, Adrian handled it before Lena could even reach for her purse. They walked out together into the October night, where the rain had stopped but the streets still gleamed wet under the streetlights. I have to take the subway, Lena said, pulling her coat tighter. Marcus can drive you. That's not charity, just logistics. Adrian pulled out his phone, texted his driver. Send me your portfolio. My assistant's email is on the website. Adrian. Lena turned to face him fully. Why are you doing this? Really? He could have given her the easy answer, the business answer. Instead, he told the truth. Because 3 hours ago, I walked in here expecting to waste an evening, and instead I met someone who reminded me why I got into this business in the first place. He paused. And because whoever set you up tonight was betting you'd break. I like betting against people like that. The Mercedes pulled up. Marcus got out, opened the back door. Lena looked at the car, then at Adrian. This is crazy. Yeah. I'm going to send you my portfolio. Good. And if you hate it, we never speak of this night again. Deal. She got in the car. Adrian watched the taillights disappear around the corner, then stood there on the sidewalk for longer than was reasonable, wondering what the hell he'd just done. His phone buzzed. Dominic. How'd it go? Adrian stared at the message. typed, "You're an asshole." The response came immediately. "But did you have fun?" Against all logic, Adrian smiled. "Yeah, I did." The photos hit the internet at 6:47 a.m. Adrian's head of security called first. "We've got a situation." He was in his home office, Emma still asleep down the hall, his first coffee barely touched. "What kind of situation?" "Photos. You and an unknown woman leaving Oriole last night. They're already on page 6. Daily Mail has them. Twitter's going crazy." Adrian pulled up his laptop. There they were. Him and Lena on the sidewalk, her looking up at him, his expression unguarded in a way that made him wince. The headlines were predictable. Billionaire Bachelor's Mystery Date. Who is Adrian Cole's new lady? Sources say it's serious. Jesus Christ, Adrian muttered. We issuing a statement? No, let it die. But it didn't die. By 8 a.m., 3 gossip sites had published investigations into Lena's background. They'd found her LinkedIn, her Facebook, photos from college that she'd probably forgotten existed. The comments were vicious, gold digger alert. She's not even pretty. Wonder what she's got that bought her way into Oriole. Adrian made 2 calls. The first to his lawyer, requesting immediate cease and desist letters to any outlet using Lena's photos without permission. The second to Lena's firm. Sterling Associates, how may I direct your call? James Sterling, please. Tell him it's Adrian Cole. The reaction was instantaneous, a sharp intake of breath, hold music for exactly 12 seconds, then Sterling's voice, warm with false friendliness. Mr. Cole, what an unexpected pleasure. What can I do for you? You have a design assistant named Lena Hart. A pause. Yes, she's on our staff. I want to meet with her today, regarding a project. I'm sure I could arrange, that is, I'd be happy to personally, just her. My office, 2 p.m. Adrian hung up before Sterling could finish whatever ass-kissing statement he'd prepared. He spent the next hour fielding calls from friends, investors, and distant relatives who suddenly remembered his phone number. Dominic called twice. Adrian ignored both attempts. At noon, his assistant buzzed. Mr. Cole? A Miss Hart is here to see you. Adrian checked his watch. 2 hours early. Send her in. Lena walked into his office like she was walking to her execution. She'd clearly tried to dress up, a nicer blouse, slacks instead of the skirt she'd worn last night. But her face was pale, her eyes red-rimmed like maybe she'd been crying or maybe just hadn't slept. I'm sorry, she said immediately. I don't know how this happened. I didn't call anyone, didn't post anything. I don't even know who— Sit down. She sat, perched on the edge of the chair like she might need to run. Adrian came around his desk, leaned against it, deliberately casual. You see the comments? Yes. They're wrong. That's not the point, Lena's voice cracked. The point is everyone I work with has seen them, everyone I know. By tomorrow, everyone back home will know. They'll think exactly what those comments say, that I'm some kind of opportunist who slept her way into your world. Did you? Her head snapped up. What? Sleep your way into my world. Because I was there. I'm pretty sure we just had dinner. Despite everything, she almost smiled. Just dinner. Then fuck what they think. Adrian crossed his arms. Did you bring your portfolio? The subject change seemed to confuse her. Yes, I emailed it this morning, but I looked at it. Lena went very still. And? And you're hired. The words hung in the air between them. Adrian watched her process them, saw the disbelief, the hope, the fear all fighting for space on her face. What? You're hired. As a design consultant on the Red Hook project, 3-month contract will discuss extension based on performance. Salary commensurate with experience, which in your case, he named a figure that made her eyes go wide, should be sufficient. Adrian, you can't, people will think, people are already thinking it. Might as well give you the job you actually deserve. He moved back behind his desk, pulled up a contract his lawyer had drawn up an hour ago. This is real, Lena. Not charity, not a pity hire. I showed your portfolio to my project manager. He said, and I quote, "Where the hell did you find her?" Your community center design for that Ohio town? Brilliant. The affordable housing concept you did as a thesis project? We could actually build that. You have talent that's being wasted fetching coffee for assholes who wouldn't recognize good design if it built itself in front of them. Lena's hands were shaking. She pressed them flat against her thighs. If I say yes, you'll work harder than you've ever worked. You'll be questioned at every turn because you're young and you're new and you're a woman in a field still run by men who think they know better. You'll have to prove yourself 1,000 times over. Adrian met her eyes. But you'll also design something that matters. Something that will still be standing 50 years from now, with your name on it. She was crying now, silent tears tracking down her face that she didn't bother to wipe away. My boss called me into his office this morning, she said quietly. Told me the photos were embarrassing the firm, that I needed to be more careful about my personal life if I wanted to maintain my professional reputation. Her laugh was bitter. The same boss who's been having an affair with his secretary for 2 years. Everyone knows. Nobody cares. But I have dinner with you, and suddenly I'm a liability. Then quit. What? Quit. Today. Right now. Adrian slid the contract across the desk. Sign this instead. Lena stared at the papers like they might bite her. This is insane. Probably. We barely know each other. I know your work. That's enough. People will say you're only doing this because let them say it. Adrian's voice was firm. I stopped giving a shit what people said about me a long time ago. The question isn't what they'll say. It's what you want. Lena picked up the contract. Read it. Her lips moved slightly as she worked through the legal language, and Adrian found himself watching her, this woman who'd walked into a prank last night and was walking out of it with her entire life changed. There's a clause here, she said, about our personal relationship. Standard morality clause protects both of us. Adrian kept his voice professional. What happened last night? That was 2 people having dinner. This is business. I need you to know the difference. Do you? The question landed harder than it should have. Adrian thought about lying, about deflecting, decided on truth. I think you're brilliant. I think you've been overlooked and underestimated and probably gaslit into believing you're not as good as you are. I think working with you will make my project better. He paused. I also think you're the first person in years who's looked at me and seen past the money. And I don't want to fuck that up by confusing business with something else. Lena set down the contract. What if I want it to be something else? Adrian's heart did something stupid in his chest. Then we finish the project first. We keep it professional, and in 3 months, when the contract's up and there's no power dynamic, we can talk about what else might mean. That's very rational. I'm a very rational person. Liar. But she was smiling. She picked up the pen Adrian had left on the desk. I need to think about this. Take your time. I mean like an hour. Maybe 2. She stood. Can I use your conference room? It's yours. She walked to the door, then turned back. Adrian? Yeah? Thank you for not treating me like I'm crazy for being scared. After she left, Adrian sat at his desk and tried to work. Answered emails, reviewed contracts, pretended he wasn't watching the clock. 43 minutes later, Lena walked back in and put the signed contract on his desk. When do I start? She asked. The Sterling Associates office was on the 14th floor of a glass tower in Midtown, all exposed brick and industrial chic and mandatory creativity. Lena had always hated it. The open floor plan that meant no privacy, the standing desks that hurt her back, the break room with its cold brew on tap, and kombucha in the fridge like they were all too evolved for regular coffee. She walked in at 3:30 after leaving Adrian's office, and the reaction was immediate. Conversations stopped. Heads turned. Jessica from accounts receivable actually gasped. Lena walked straight to her desk, ignoring them all. Started packing her things into the cardboard box she'd grabbed from the supply closet. Lena! James Sterling's voice tight with false concern. My office. Now. She kept packing. Sketchbook. Pens. The succulent plant her mom had sent for her birthday. I'm busy. That wasn't a request. And this isn't a negotiation. She turned to face him. The whole office was watching now, pretending to work while openly staring. I quit. Sterling's face went red. You can't just... We have projects. You have projects where I make copies and schedule meetings. I'm sure you'll find another design assistant to do the shit work. She picked up her box. I've already emailed my files to the server. Everything's backed up. You're welcome. This is about him, isn't it? Claire spoke up from her desk, her voice carrying across the open space. The billionaire. You think you've won some kind of lottery. Lena could have walked away. Should have. But 3 years of swallowing comments, of smiling through condescension, of watching her work get stolen and her ideas get credited to men who couldn't design their way out of a bathroom remodel, It all came up at once. "You're right," she said, setting down her box. "It is about him. Because last night, when you all sent me to that restaurant as a joke, hoping I'd get humiliated and quit, Adrian Cole looked at my portfolio and saw what none of you ever bothered to see: talent, vision, potential. She looked at Claire, at Sterling, at every smug face in that office. I'm going to design a $30 million community center. It's going to be beautiful, and my name's going to be on it, not as an assistant, as the lead designer." The silence was absolute. "So thank you," Lena continued, "for being exactly petty enough to push me towards someone who actually values my work." She picked up her box and walked out. Didn't look back. Her hands didn't start shaking until she was in the elevator, and by the time she hit the lobby, she was laughing. Crying a little too, but mostly laughing. Her phone buzzed. A text from a number she didn't recognize. "This is Adrian. Marcus is outside. He'll take you wherever you need to go." She texted back, "Home, need to call my mom and tell her I just quit my job to work for a billionaire I met last night." The response was immediate. "How's she going to take it? Probably better than she took the photos of us on page 6. Fair point. Congrats on the exit. See you Monday." Lena got in the Mercedes. Marcus didn't ask questions, just drove toward her apartment in Astoria, while she sat in the back seat and let the reality of what she'd just done wash over her. She'd quit her job, signed a contract with a man she barely knew, committed to a project that was either going to make her career or destroy what was left of her reputation. And somehow, impossibly, she felt more like herself than she had in years. Her phone rang. Her mom. "Please tell me those photos aren't real," were the first words out of her mouth. Lena laughed. "Hi, Mom." "Lena Marie Hart, I raised you better than to go running around with billionaires without telling your mother. It wasn't like that. It was—" She paused. What was it? A setup that turned into dinner that turned into a job offer that might turn into something else in 3 months if neither of them screwed it up first. It's complicated. Complicated like we're friends? Or complicated like I'm moving to Manhattan? Complicated like I just quit my job to work for him on a major design project, and also maybe I like him, but we're keeping it professional until the project's done because he's technically my boss now, and there are power dynamics to consider. Her mother was quiet for a long moment. Then, "Is he good to you?" "Yeah, Mom. He's good to me." "Then I don't care if he's a billionaire or a bartender. You do what makes you happy." A pause. "But if he hurts you, I'm driving to New York and keying his car." "I'll let him know." They talked for another 20 minutes about the job, the project, the insanity of the last 24 hours. Her mom told her to be careful, to get everything in writing, to remember that she was smart and talented and didn't need any man, rich or poor, to validate her worth. All things Lena already knew. But it helped to hear them anyway. By the time Marcus dropped her off at her building, the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink that made even Astoria look beautiful. Lena climbed the 4 flights to her apartment, unlocked the door, and stood in her tiny kitchen looking at the life she'd built. It wasn't much. A studio with a Murphy bed and a window that faced a brick wall. Secondhand furniture from Craigslist. A bathroom where the tiles were cracked and the shower pressure was a suggestion. But it was hers. She'd earned it. Every shift at the diner, every night class, every time she'd chosen paying rent over going home for Christmas, it had led here. And now, maybe, it was leading somewhere else. Lena opened her laptop, pulled up the files for the Red Hook project Adrian had sent over, started reading, started sketching, lost herself in the work the way she always did when the world got too loud. Somewhere around midnight, her phone buzzed again. "Adrian, you still up?" "Yeah, working. Good. Me too." Emma woke up asking about the pretty lady from Daddy's phone. "I showed her your photo." "What'd she say?" "She said you look nice." Then she asked if you like dinosaurs because that's her current metric for judging people. Lena found herself smiling at her phone like a teenager. "I love dinosaurs. Triceratops is underrated. Emma says you have excellent taste. Also, she wants to know if you're Daddy's girlfriend." "What'd you tell her?" "That you're Daddy's colleague and we're going to build something cool together. Smooth." "I have my moments." "Get some sleep, Lena. Monday's going to be intense. Night, Adrian." Night. She put down her phone, looked at her sketches, at the project that was going to change everything. In Ohio, people were probably still talking about the girl who left, the factory worker's daughter who'd gotten ideas above her station. In Manhattan, they were definitely still talking about the mystery woman who'd somehow caught a billionaire's attention. But Lena wasn't thinking about any of them. She was thinking about space and light and the way a building could change a neighborhood if you designed it right. About second chances and impossible nights and the strange, terrifying feeling of being seen. She fell asleep on her couch, laptop still open, sketches scattered around her like promises. And for the first time in 3 years, she didn't dream about failure. She dreamed about building something that would last. Monday morning arrived with the kind of cold that made New York feel personal, like the city was testing whether you really wanted to be there. Lena stood outside the coal industries building at 7:45, 15 minutes early, clutching a coffee she was too nervous to drink. The building was newer than most in the financial district, all glass and steel that caught the morning light and threw it back at the sky. Through the revolving doors, she could see the lobby, marble floors, security desk, people in expensive suits moving with the kind of purpose that came from knowing exactly where they belonged. She didn't belong here. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But she was going in anyway. The security guard checked her ID twice, made a phone call, then handed her a temporary badge with her photo printed so badly she looked like a wanted poster. 15th floor. Mr. Cole's assistant will meet you at the elevator. The elevator was the kind with mirrors on all sides, which meant Lena got to watch herself panic from multiple angles. She'd chosen her outfit carefully, the nicest pants she owned, a blouse she'd ironed 3 times, shoes that were professional but not trying too hard. Still, standing there surrounded by reflections, all she could see were the flaws. The hem that was slightly uneven, the bag that was clean but clearly old, the face that didn't know how to arrange itself into the confidence this building demanded. The doors opened on 15, and a woman in her mid-40s with silver hair and glasses on a chain was waiting. Lena Hart? Her voice was warm, her handshake firm. I'm Patricia, Mr. Cole's executive assistant. Welcome to Cole Industries. Thank you. Lena's voice came out steadier than she felt. I'm excited to be here. Good. You'll need that. Patricia led her down a hallway lined with photos of buildings, projects Adrian had developed over the years, each one more impressive than the last. Mr. Cole's in a meeting until 8:30, but I'll get you set up at your desk, introduce you to the project team, run through the basics. I have a desk? Patricia smiled. Did you think you'd be working on the floor? The project team occupied the entire east side of the 15th floor, an open workspace divided by low partitions and plants that probably cost more than Lena's monthly rent. Her desk was near the windows, with a view of the harbor that made her forget to breathe for a second. Holy shit, she whispered. That's the usual reaction. Patricia set down a folder. Laptop's already configured with your credentials. Files for the Red Hook project are on the shared drive. Team meetings at 9. Questions? About 1,000. Lena went with, where's the bathroom? By 8:15, she had met the project manager, an intense guy named David who looked at her like he was trying to figure out how much damage she could do, and 2 junior architects who seemed friendly enough but kept exchanging glances that said they'd definitely seen the photos. By 8:20, she'd logged into her computer and opened the Red Hook files, her heart hammering as she realized just how massive this project was. $30 million. 15,000 square feet. A community center that would serve a neighborhood of 40,000 people, most of them low income, most of them exactly like the people Lena had grown up with. This wasn't just a building, it was a statement about who mattered. Lena. Adrian's voice behind her. She turned, and there he was, somehow looking more put together than any human had a right to at 8:30 in the morning. Dark suit, white shirt, no tie. Hair still slightly damp like he'd just gotten out of the shower. My office. 5 minutes. He was gone before she could respond. David leaned over the partition. Friendly advice? When he says 5 minutes, he means 4. Lena grabbed her notebook and went. Adrian's office was corner, floor-to-ceiling windows on 2 sides. Furniture that was expensive in that quiet way, where nothing had visible price tags. He was on the phone when she entered, gesturing for her to sit while he finished. I don't care what the city says. We're not cutting the green space. That's non-negotiable. Find another way. He listened for a beat. Then we'll fight them on it. I've got lawyers for a reason. He hung up, turned to Lena. How's your first morning? Terrifying. Good. Means you care. He pulled up something on his computer. I'm going to be direct with you because I don't have time to be anything else. The team's skeptical. They think I hired you because we had dinner, because you're young, because I'm trying to make some kind of point. David especially. He's been with me for 8 years, and he thinks this project should have gone to someone with more experience. Lena felt her stomach drop. So why didn't it? Because experience isn't the same as vision. David can execute. He's brilliant at taking an idea and making it real, but he doesn't dream the way you do. Adrian turned the monitor toward her. It was her portfolio, the community center design she'd done for Millfield. This building, if we'd actually built it in your hometown, it would have changed everything. The way you integrated the library with the recreation space, the natural light, the outdoor areas that flow into the indoor ones. You weren't just designing a building. You were designing a space that would make people feel like they mattered. That's the whole point, Lena said quietly. I know. That's why you're here. He closed the laptop. But you're going to have to prove it, over and over, starting today. The team meeting at 9. David's going to push back on everything you say. Not because he's an asshole, though he can be, but because he needs to know you can defend your ideas. Can I? Can you? Lena thought about every presentation she'd given at Sterling Associates. Every time she'd watched her ideas get torn apart, or stolen or dismissed. Every time she'd stayed quiet, because speaking up had consequences. Yeah, she said. I can. Then do it. Adrian stood. One more thing. We're going to Red Hook this afternoon. I want you to see the site, meet some of the community leaders, understand who we're building this for. Okay. And Lena? He waited until she met his eyes. Don't let them make you small. You're here because you're good. Act like it. The team meeting was worse than she'd expected and somehow exactly what Adrian had warned her about. David opened with the site analysis, running through zoning restrictions and building codes with the kind of detail that made Lena's head spin. Then he pulled up the current design, a blocky, efficient structure that checked all the boxes and had absolutely no soul. This is what we've been working with, David said. 3 floors, mixed use, fits the budget. It's practical. It's a prison, Lena heard herself say. The room went quiet. David's eyebrows went up. Excuse me? Lena forced herself to keep going. It's efficient, you're right about that. But it looks like every other institutional building in the city. There's no personality, no connection to the neighborhood. She pulled up her laptop, mirrored it to the screen. Can I show you something? David looked at Adrian, who nodded. Go ahead. Lena had spent Sunday sketching. Hadn't been able to stop herself, actually. The ideas coming so fast her hand could barely keep up. She pulled up the drawings now, feeling exposed in a way that had nothing to do with the photos on page 6. Red Hook used to be industrial. Warehouses, shipyards, places where people built things with their hands. That history matters. So instead of fighting it, we embrace it. She advanced to the next slide. We use materials that reference that past. Exposed brick, steel beams, industrial windows. But we warm it up. Add wood, bring in light, create spaces that feel human. She showed them the main gathering space, double-height ceilings with clerestory windows that would flood the room with natural light. The community kitchen where people could take cooking classes or just cook together. The library that opened onto a rooftop garden. The gymnasium that could transform into a theater or event space. It's still 3 floors, still fits the budget. I ran the numbers. But it's not just a building, it's a place people will want to be. When she finished, nobody spoke for a solid 10 seconds. Then David said, the rooftop garden's going to be a maintenance nightmare. So we design it to be low maintenance. Native plants, drought resistant. Maybe we get local schools involved in taking care of it. The industrial materials are going to cost more than standard. Not if we source them locally. There are salvage yards all over Brooklyn. We could probably get some of it donated if we play it right. Good PR for the companies, good for our budget. David leaned back in his chair studying her. You've thought about this. I haven't been able to think about anything else. Adrian spoke up for the first time. What's the timeline? If we move fast, we could have revised plans in 3 weeks. Full design package in 6. Lena looked at David. But I'm going to need help. I can't do this alone. Something shifted in David's expression. Not quite approval, but close. All right, let's see what you've got. The rest of the meeting was details. Who would work on what when they'd present to the community board. How to handle the city approvals that were inevitably going to be a pain in the ass. By the time it ended, Lena felt like she'd run a marathon. Her hands were shaking, her coffee was cold. But David had nodded at her on his way out, which felt like winning an Oscar. Patricia appeared at her desk at noon with a sandwich. Eat. You look like you're about to pass out. I might. You did good in there. David doesn't usually warm up to new people this fast. He warmed up? That was him being warm? Patricia laughed. Trust me, when he's cold, you'll know. She paused. For what it's worth, I've been with Mr. Cole for 12 years. I've never seen him hire someone this quickly. Whatever you did, you impressed him. After she left, Lena ate the sandwich, turkey and avocado, really good bread, probably from somewhere that didn't list prices, and tried not to think about the fact that her entire life had changed in 72 hours. Failed completely. Checked her phone instead. 3 texts from her mom asking how it was going, 2 from old friends who'd seen the photos and wanted the story. 1 from an unknown number that just said gold-digging slut. She deleted that one. Blocked the number. Tried not to let it crawl under her skin. At 2, Adrian appeared at her desk. Ready? For what? Red Hook, come on. They took Adrian's car, Marcus driving while Adrian sat in the back reviewing something on his tablet. Lena watched the city slide past, the neighborhoods changing from financial district money to Brooklyn grit. She'd been to Red Hook once for a friend's art show in a converted warehouse. It had felt forgotten then, like the city had decided this corner didn't matter. That was exactly why this project mattered. Tell me about growing up here, Lena said. Adrian looked up from his tablet. What do you want to know? Everything. I can't design something for this neighborhood without understanding it. He was quiet for a moment, and Lena wondered if she'd pushed too far. Then he set down the tablet. My dad's crew used to work the docks, before the shipping industry moved out, before the whole neighborhood started dying. We lived on Van Brunt, 3rd floor walk-up, me and him and my mom and my little sister. His voice was even, factual. It was a good neighborhood. People knew each other, looked out for each other. When my dad lost work, neighbors brought us food. When Mrs. Chen's husband died, we helped with her rent. What happened? What always happens? The jobs left. The people who could afford to leave followed. The people who couldn't just got poorer. He looked out the window. My sister still lives here. She's a teacher at the local elementary school. Makes $38,000 a year and thinks she's rich because she has her own apartment. Marcus pulled up in front of a vacant lot surrounded by chain-link fence. Beyond it, Lena could see the neighborhood. Old row houses, bodegas, a playground with equipment that had seen better decades. People on stoops, kids on bikes, life happening in the gaps between abandonment. Adrian got out. Lena followed. This is it, he said. 40,000 square feet of nothing. But Lena wasn't seeing nothing. She was seeing possibility. The way the lot sat at the intersection of 2 streets, maximum visibility. The old warehouse across the road that could complement the industrial aesthetic she'd proposed. The elementary school 2 blocks down where Adrian's sister taught. Who owns it? She asked. I do. Bought it 5 years ago. Been trying to figure out what to do with it ever since. Why a community center? Adrian was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was softer. Because when Emma was born, I realized she was going to grow up with everything I didn't have. Private schools, nannies, a trust fund that'll set her up for life. And I'm grateful for that. I worked my ass off so she could have those things. But I also want her to understand where she comes from, what it means to build something that isn't about profit. A woman was approaching from across the street, maybe 60, wearing a church coat and carrying a handbag that looked like it could double as a weapon. Adrian Cole, is that you? Adrian's whole face changed. Mrs. Rodriguez. Don't you Mrs. Rodriguez me. 5 years you own this lot, and I don't see you once, then suddenly you show up with a pretty girl and fancy plans. This is Lena Hart. She's the designer for the community center. Mrs. Rodriguez looked Lena up and down with the kind of assessment that saw everything. You're the one from the photos. Yes, ma'am. Don't yes, ma'am me either. I'm not that old. But she was smiling. So what are you going to build us? Another ugly box that nobody wants to use? Lena pulled out her phone, showed Mrs. Rodriguez the sketches. Watched the woman's face as she swiped through the images, her expression shifting from skepticism to something that looked like hope. This is for here? Mrs. Rodriguez asked. For us? If you want it, Lena said, but I need to know what you need, what the neighborhood needs. I can design something beautiful, but if it doesn't work for the people who'll actually use it, what's the point? Mrs. Rodriguez studied her for a long moment. Then she turned to Adrian. I like her. She's not full of shit like the last architect you brought around. There was no last architect, Adrian said. Exactly. You're learning. She turned back to Lena. Come to church on Sunday, community meeting after service. You can talk to people, hear what they need. Don't bring them... She pointed at Adrian. He'll just make people nervous with all his money. I'll be there, Lena promised. They spent another hour walking the neighborhood, Adrian pointing out landmarks that meant something to him. The corner store where he'd bought candy with money from his first construction job. The basketball court where he'd learned you could take a hit and keep moving. The elementary school where his sister taught third grade and where Emma would have gone if her life had been different. On the drive back, Adrian's phone rang. He glanced at it, frowned, answered. What's wrong? Lena couldn't hear the other side, but she could see Adrian's face tighten. I'm 20 minutes out. Don't let her leave. I'm coming. He hung up, leaned forward. Marcus, we need to get to Emma's school, now. What happened? Lena asked. She got in a fight. They're sending her home. Marcus drove faster, the professional kind of faster that bent laws without breaking them. Adrian sat rigid, jaw clenched, the careful control he'd maintained all day finally cracking. She doesn't fight, he said, more to himself than to Lena. She's the kid who cries when other kids fight. She won't even kill spiders. They pulled up in front of a private school on the Upper East Side, all brick and ivy and privilege. Adrian was out before the car fully stopped. Lena hesitated, then followed. Inside, a secretary led them to an office where Emma sat in a chair that was too big for her, her face streaked with tears and what might have been blood from a split lip. Next to her, looking smug despite a developing black eye, was a boy slightly bigger than her. And in the corner, a woman in designer clothes who had to be the boy's mother was saying, completely unacceptable. I expect that girl to be expelled immediately. Adrian went straight to Emma, kneeling in front of her. Baby, are you okay? What happened? He said, Emma's voice broke. He said Mommy died because I was bad. He said that's why you're always sad. The room went silent. Adrian's hands were shaking as he touched Emma's face, checking the damage. Who told you that? Connor. Emma pointed at the smug boy. He said his mommy told him. Adrian stood, turned to face the other mother. And Lena saw something in his face she hadn't seen before. Rage, barely controlled. Your son, Adrian said, his voice deadly quiet, told my 5-year-old daughter that her mother's death was her fault. I'm sure there's been a misunderstanding. And you? Adrian took a step forward. The woman actually backed up. You talked about my family with your kid, about my wife's death, about my daughter. Everyone knows about it. It was in all the papers. That doesn't give you the right to use it to make your son feel superior. Adrian turned to the principal, who'd been watching with the expression of someone who knew they were about to lose a major donor. I'm withdrawing Emma from this school effective immediately. You'll receive a formal complaint about this incident, and if I find out your staff did anything to encourage this kind of bullying, my lawyers will be very interested. Mr. Cole, please, let's discuss. There's nothing to discuss. Adrian picked up Emma, who wrapped her arms around his neck and buried her face in his shoulder. Come on, baby. We're going home. In the hallway, he finally seemed to notice Lena was still there. I'm sorry. You didn't need to. Don't apologize. Lena's throat was tight. Is she okay? Emma peeked out from Adrian's shoulder, seeing Lena for the first time. You're the pretty lady from Daddy's phone. That's me. I'm Lena. Did you see Connor hit me? No, sweetie, but I heard you hit him back. Emma nodded, solemn. Daddy says we don't start fights, but we can finish them. Despite everything, Adrian smiled. That's not exactly what I said. They went back to Adrian's place, a penthouse in Tribeca that made Lena's studio look like a closet. Floor-to-ceiling windows, art on the walls that was probably worth more than she'd make in a lifetime. Furniture that was both expensive and somehow still comfortable. Emma's room was pink and purple and filled with books and dinosaurs in exactly the ratio you'd expect from a 5-year-old who couldn't pick just one interest. Adrian cleaned Emma's lip, got her settled on the couch with a movie and ice cream, then disappeared into his office for a series of phone calls that Lena could hear even from the living room, finding a new school. Talking to lawyers. Handling the crisis with the same efficiency he brought to everything else. Lena sat on the couch next to Emma, who had apparently decided she was trustworthy. Do you really like dinosaurs? Emma asked. I really do. Triceratops is my favorite. Because of the horns? Because they traveled in herds. They took care of each other. Emma considered this. My mommy died in a car accident. Lena's heart squeezed. I know, sweetheart. I'm sorry. I don't remember her very much. Just sometimes I think I do, but Daddy says maybe I'm remembering photos instead of real things. She spooned ice cream into her mouth. Connor's mommy said Daddy's going to marry you because you're from the pictures. Connor's mommy talks too much. That got a giggle. Are you going to marry Daddy? Right now, I'm just working for him. We're building something for a neighborhood in Brooklyn. What kind of something? A place where kids can play and read and learn things. A place where families can be together. Emma thought about this. That's nice. Daddy builds lots of things, but usually they're for rich people. Well, this one's different. Adrian emerged from his office looking 10 years older than he had that morning. He saw Emma and Lena on the couch, heads together over a dinosaur book, and something in his face softened. I need to put her to bed, he said. But you don't have to leave, unless you want to. I'll stay, Lena said. If that's okay. While Adrian got Emma ready for bed, a process that apparently involved 3 stories, 2 songs, and a negotiation about whether dinosaurs could be princesses, Lena wandered around the apartment. There were photos everywhere, Emma as a baby, Adrian and a woman who must have been Emma's mother, both of them younger, happier. Emma at various stages of growing up. And one photo, smaller than the others, of 2 kids on a Brooklyn stoop. A boy and a girl, maybe 8 and 6, grinning at the camera like they owned the world. That's me and my sister, Adrian said from behind her. The summer before everything went to shit. You look happy. We didn't know any better. He moved to the window, looking out at the city. Thank you for today, for staying. You don't have to thank me. Yeah, I do. He turned to face her. You could have left when things got messy. Most people would have. But you stayed. Lena joined him at the window. Below them, the city glittered, millions of lights hiding millions of stories. Somewhere down there, people were having the worst day of their lives. Somewhere else, the best. The city didn't care what you were having, it just kept moving. My dad used to say the measure of a person isn't what they do when things are easy, Lena said. It's what they do when everything's falling apart. Smart man. He was. He died when I was 22, heart attack at the factory. She was quiet for a moment. I used to be so angry that he worked himself to death for a company that laid him off 6 months later, but then I realized he wasn't working for them. He was working for us, for me and my mom, making sure we'd be okay. Adrian was looking at her with an expression she couldn't quite read. Is that why you do this? Design buildings for people who can't usually afford them? Maybe. Or maybe I just want to believe that spaces matter, that beautiful things shouldn't only be for people who can pay for them. She turned to face him. Why do you do it? Really? Because I'm terrified Emma's going to grow up thinking money is the only thing that matters. Because I want her to understand that success means nothing if you're not building something that lasts. He was close enough now that she could see the exhaustion in his face, the weight he carried. And because maybe I want to prove to myself that I'm not just another rich asshole who forgot where he came from. You're not, Lena said quietly. Trust me, I've met plenty of those. You're not one of them. They stood there, the city spread below them, the space between them charged with something neither was quite ready to name. Adrian's phone buzzed, breaking the moment. He checked it, grimaced. My lawyer. I need to take this. I should go anyway, it's late. Lena. He caught her hand. I meant what I said earlier, about proving yourself. You did that today. Everyone on the team saw it. She squeezed his hand once, then let go. See you tomorrow. On the subway ride home, Lena let herself think about everything that had happened. The meeting where she'd fought for her vision and won. The neighborhood that was trusting her with their future. The little girl with the split lip who'd decided Lena was okay. The man who was either going to be the best thing that ever happened to her or the mistake that broke her completely. Her phone buzzed. A text from a number she'd deleted earlier. A new one. You think you're special, but you're just another whore who got lucky. She stared at it for a long moment. Then she screenshotted it, saved it to a folder she'd started that morning. Evidence, if she ever needed it. Blocked the number, kept moving. Because the thing about being from a town like Millfield, from a life like hers, you learned early that people would try to make you small, would tell you that wanting more was greedy, that reaching was arrogant, that you should be grateful for whatever scraps you got, and you learned to tell those people to go to hell. Lena got off at her stop, climbed the stairs to her apartment, and spent the next 4 hours sketching, refining her vision for Red Hook, making it better, pushing it further. At some point, she fell asleep at her desk, pencil still in hand, and dreamed about buildings that touched the sky. She didn't dream about Adrian. Didn't let herself. Not yet. 3 weeks into the project, Lena had stopped sleeping regular hours. Not because anyone was forcing her, Adrian had actually told her twice to go home and rest, but because the work had gotten under her skin in a way nothing else ever had. Every design choice mattered. Every material selection could mean the difference between a building the neighborhood embraced and one they tolerated. She wasn't designing for a portfolio anymore. She was designing for Mrs. Rodriguez and the kids at Adrian's sister's school and the families who deserved beautiful spaces but never got them. The Sunday community meeting had been overwhelming in the best possible way. 47 people crammed into a church basement, all of them with opinions about what the center should be. A commercial kitchen so people could start food businesses. A dance studio because the neighborhood used to have one but it closed. Maker spaces for woodworking and art. Meeting rooms that didn't cost money to reserve. A recording studio for the kids who wanted to make music but couldn't afford equipment. Lena had taken 17 pages of notes and cried in her car afterward because the trust these people were placing in her felt heavier than any building she'd ever designed. Now it was Thursday morning, and she was presenting the revised plans to the full team. David had been actually helping, not just tolerating her presence, and together they'd managed to incorporate almost everything the community had asked for without blowing the budget. Almost. "We're 12% over," David said, pulling up the cost breakdown. "Not terrible, but not good either." Lena stared at the numbers, her brain already running calculations. "What if we cut the solar panels?" "That defeats the whole sustainability angle." "What if we get them donated? There are clean energy companies that do that for community projects. Good PR, tax write-offs." David made a note. "Worth exploring." "What else?" They worked through it, line by line, finding places to trim without sacrificing vision. By the time the team meeting started at 9, Lena had been awake for 23 hours straight and was running on coffee and nervous energy. Adrian walked in last, Emma trailing behind him holding a stuffed triceratops that Lena recognized from her room. He looked harried in a way she hadn't seen before. "Sorry," he said. "New school's closed for teacher training, and my sister's sick. Emma's going to sit in the corner and draw. She'll be quiet." Emma waved at Lena, who waved back. The presentation went better than Lena had dared hope. The team had questions, lots of them, but they were the good kind, the kind that showed people were actually engaged with the work. Even David seemed impressed, which for him was practically a standing ovation. Then Patricia stuck her head in. "Mr. Cole? James Sterling's on line 2. Says it's urgent." Adrian's jaw tightened. "Tell him I'm in a meeting." "I did. He says it's about Ms. Hart." Every head in the room turned to look at Lena. She felt her stomach drop. "I'll take it in my office," Adrian said. Then to the team, "Keep going, David's running point." He left. Lena tried to focus on the discussion about HVAC systems and sustainable materials, but her brain was spinning. Why would Sterling be calling? She hadn't talked to anyone from her old firm since the day she quit, had barely thought about them except to feel relieved she wasn't there anymore. 20 minutes later, Adrian came back. His face was carefully neutral, which somehow made it worse. "Lena, my office." She followed him, her heart hammering. Inside, he closed the door and turned to face her. "Sterling says you stole proprietary designs when you left. He's threatening to sue both you and me for corporate espionage." The floor tilted. "What? That's insane. I didn't take anything. The work I showed you was mine. I did it on my own time, for my own portfolio. I believe you, but he's claiming the community center concept you pitched them last year is substantially similar to what you've designed for Red Hook." Lena's brain caught up. "Wait, you mean the project they rejected? The one Claire told me was too ambitious for our client base before she literally threw my proposal in the trash?" He's saying they were developing it internally and you stole their progress. That's a lie. They didn't develop anything. They told me to stop wasting time on pro bono concepts and focus on the luxury condo projects that actually made money. She was pacing now, fury overriding fear. "This is Claire. It has to be. She's pissed that I left, pissed that I'm working for you, and she's trying to destroy me." Adrian was quiet for a moment. "Can you prove it? The timeline, the rejection, any of it?" "I have emails and..." Lena pulled out her phone, started scrolling. "I have the original files, with metadata showing when I created them. A year before I even worked at Sterling. I did them in school." Something in Adrian's expression shifted. "Send them to me, all of them, and any communication you had with Sterling about the project. Are we going to fight this? We're going to bury them." He picked up his phone. "But Lena, You need to understand this is going to get ugly. They're going to dig into your background, try to make you look incompetent or dishonest. The press is going to eat it up. Billionaire's girlfriend accused of theft. That's a headline they'll run for weeks. I'm not your girlfriend. They don't care about facts. He was already dialing. I'm calling our lawyers. You should call anyone who can verify your work history, your timeline, anything that proves Sterling's full of shit. Lena spent the next 2 hours on the phone, digging through old files, forwarding emails to Adrian's legal team. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely type. This was exactly what she'd been afraid of, that coming into Adrian's world would paint a target on her back, that people would find ways to take her down. Emma appeared in the doorway of the conference room Lena had commandeered, still clutching her dinosaur. Are you okay? You look sad. I'm just working through some stuff, sweetie. Emma climbed into the chair next to her. Daddy says when stuff is hard, you have to be like a triceratops. Despite everything, Lena smiled. What does that mean? It means you put your head down and charge, Emma demonstrated with her stuffed animal, because triceratops don't run away. They fight. Your dad's pretty smart. I know. Emma was quiet for a moment. Are the mean people from your old job being mean again? Kids saw everything. Lena had learned that watching Emma over the past few weeks. Yeah, they are. You should tell them you're building something important and they can't stop you. I wish it was that easy. Daddy says the important stuff is never easy. That's how you know it matters. Lena looked at this 5-year-old who'd already survived more loss than most adults and was still out here dispensing wisdom like it was candy. You're pretty smart, too. By 6 p.m., Adrian's lawyers had drafted a response. By 7, they'd filed a countersuit for defamation and harassment. By 8, the story had leaked to the press, exactly as Adrian had predicted. The headlines were brutal. Designer accused of corporate theft in billion-dollar love triangle. Did Adrian Cole's new hire steal her ideas? From poor to prison? Lena Hart's fall from grace. Lena read them on her phone while sitting in Adrian's office, Emma asleep on the couch with her triceratops, Adrian on yet another call with lawyers. She felt numb, hollowed out, like all the progress she'd made, all the respect she'd earned, was evaporating in real time. Her phone rang. Her mother. Please tell me you didn't steal anything, were the first words out of her mouth. I didn't, Mom, I swear. Then why are they saying you did? Because they can. Because it makes a good story. Because destroying me is easier than admitting they were wrong. Lena's voice cracked. I worked so hard. I did everything right. And it doesn't matter. They're going to make me the villain anyway. Hey. Her mother's voice went soft. You listen to me. I raised you better than to roll over when things get hard. So some assholes are lying about you. So what? You know the truth. That man you're working for knows the truth. The people in that Brooklyn neighborhood who are trusting you with their community center, they're going to know the truth. Everyone else can go to hell. Lena was crying now, quiet tears that she wiped away before Emma could wake up and see. What if I lose? Then you lose. But you don't lose because you gave up. You lose because you fought, and sometimes fighting isn't enough. But at least you'll know you didn't let them make you quit. After they hung up, Lena sat there in the dim office, listening to Adrian's voice from the other room, watching Emma sleep. This little girl who'd lost her mother. This man who was risking his reputation to defend someone he barely knew. This project that mattered more than anything she'd ever done. She pulled out her laptop, started working. Adrian found her there at midnight, still designing, still refining. Emma had been picked up by his sister hours ago. The office was empty except for them. You should go home, he said. In a minute. Lena. She looked up. He looked exhausted, tie gone, sleeves rolled up, hair disheveled from running his hands through it. I'm sorry, he said. I should have anticipated this. Should have protected you better. How? By not hiring me. She saved her work, closed her laptop. Then they win. Claire and Sterling and everyone who's ever told me I don't belong, they all win. And I'm not letting them win. Adrian sat down across from her. The lawyers think we have a solid case. Your metadata proves those designs predate your employment with Sterling. We have emails showing they rejected the concept. We have witnesses who can testify to your work habits and timeline. But litigation takes time. Months, maybe years. And in the meantime, the story's out there. People are going to believe what they want to believe. So what do? We build the damn building. Adrian leaned forward. We finish these plans. We break ground. We create something so undeniably good that nobody can question whether you deserve to be here. And when we're done, when that community center is standing and changing lives, Sterling and his lawsuit will look like exactly what it is: a pathetic attempt to tear down someone who left them behind. Lena wanted to believe him, wanted to think it could be that simple. What if I can't? The words came out smaller than she meant them. What if the pressure's too much and I screw it up? You won't. You don't know that. Yeah, I do. He held her gaze. You want to know why I really hired you? Not because of your portfolio, though that was brilliant. Not because we had dinner, though that reminded me what it feels like to talk to someone real. I hired you because when you walked out of that restaurant 3 weeks ago, you had every reason to go home and hide. Instead, you went back to your shitty apartment and designed something beautiful. Because that's who you are. Someone who builds when the world's trying to break her. Lena's throat was tight. Adrian, I'm not done. He stood, started pacing. I know we said we'd keep this professional, keep it about work. Wait until the contract's up before we talk about what else this could be. But I need you to know what I feel when I'm around you has nothing to do with pity or charity or whatever bullshit Sterling's trying to sell. It has to do with the fact that you're brilliant and brave and you make me want to build things that matter, instead of just things that make money. We can't, Lena whispered. Not now. Not with everything. I know. I'm not asking for anything. I'm just telling you the truth because I'm tired of dancing around it. He stopped pacing, faced her. When this is over, the lawsuit, the project, all of it, I want to take you to dinner. A real dinner. Not a setup. Not a business meeting. Just you and me figuring out if this thing between us is real or if we're both just exhausted and making bad decisions. What if it's both? Then we'll figure that out too. Lena stood, picked up her bag. At the door, she turned back. For the record, I feel it too. Whatever this is, it scares the hell out of me, but I feel it. Good, Adrian said quietly, because feeling nothing would be easier, and we're apparently not people who do easy. The subway ride home was empty, just Lena and a guy sleeping across 3 seats and the rattle of the train through tunnels. She should have been thinking about the lawsuit, about Sterling's accusations, about the headlines that were probably still spreading. Instead, she was thinking about the way Adrian had looked at her, like she was worth fighting for, like she mattered. Her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. You're going down, bitch. Enjoy it while it lasts. She screenshotted it, added it to the folder, kept moving. Friday brought new problems. David pulled her aside first thing. We've got a situation with the contractor. What kind of situation? The kind where they're getting nervous about all the press and wondering if this project's going to implode before we break ground. He pulled up an email. They're asking for reassurances, want to meet with you and Adrian before they commit to the timeline. They think I'm a liability. They think headlines are unpredictable, which they are. David's voice was matter-of-fact. But here's the thing. Your designs are solid. The community wants this. The budget works. So we're going to go to this meeting, and you're going to show them why they'd be idiots to walk away. The meeting was scheduled for Monday. Lena spent the weekend preparing, running numbers, refining presentations, calling every reference she had from school and from contractors she'd worked with on small projects over the years, building a case for herself that she shouldn't have to build, but was building anyway, because that was the game. Sunday morning, she went back to Red Hook for another community meeting. Mrs. Rodriguez took one look at her and said, "You look like hell." "Thanks. I feel like it." "Come here." The older woman pulled her into the church kitchen, poured her coffee that was strong enough to stand a spoon in. "I read what they're saying about you. I'm sorry. I know this reflects badly on the project. I didn't say I believed it." Mrs. Rodriguez sat down across from her. "I've lived in this neighborhood 42 years. You know how many people have come here promising to build us things? Promising to care? And you know how many actually showed up?" Lena shook her head. "None. 0. They make promises, take photos for their campaigns or their portfolios, then disappear." She sipped her coffee. "But you came back. You sat in that basement and listened to every single person talk about what they needed. You took notes, you asked questions, you cared about getting it right. So when I see headlines saying you're a thief, you know what I think?" "What?" "I think someone's scared of you. Someone sees what you're building and knows it's going to work, and they're trying to stop you before it does." She reached across the table, squeezed Lena's hand. "Don't let them." At the meeting, the community presented Lena with something she hadn't expected, a petition. 234 signatures from neighborhood residents saying they supported her, trusted her, wanted her to keep designing their center. There was a letter, too, typed on church letterhead and signed by 5 community leaders, formally requesting that Coal Industries ignore the baseless accusations and move forward with the project as planned. Lena stood in front of all these people who'd decided she was worth defending and couldn't speak for a solid minute because her throat was too tight. Finally, she managed, "Thank you. I won't let you down." "We know," Mrs. Rodriguez said. "That's why we're fighting for you." Monday's contractor meeting was tense. 3 men in polo shirts with their company logo, all of them clearly uncomfortable, none of them making eye contact with Lena at first. Adrian did the introductions with his usual efficiency, then turned the floor over to David and Lena. They presented the plans, walked through the timeline, explained the community support, the budget, the vision. Lena could feel the contractor's skepticism like a weight in the room, could see them looking at her and seeing the headlines instead of the work. Finally, the lead contractor, a guy named Mike who'd apparently worked with Adrian before, spoke up. "Look, Ms. Hart, I'm going to be straight with you. The plans are good, really good, but my company has a reputation to protect. If this project goes sideways because of legal issues—" "It won't," Lena interrupted. "I have documentation proving those designs are mine. Metadata, emails, witness statements. Sterling Associates is lying, and Adrian's legal team is going to prove it. But even if they weren't lying, even if this lawsuit drags on for years, it doesn't change the fact that this community deserves this building. It doesn't change the fact that 234 people signed a petition supporting this project. And it doesn't change the fact that I'm the best person to design it." Sati. The room was quiet. Mike looked at his partners, then back at Lena. "You really believe that? That you're the best person for this?" "I know I am." He smiled just a little. "All right then. We're in." After they left, Adrian caught up with Lena in the hallway. "That was quite a speech." "Was it too much?" "It was perfect." He paused. "The petition? That was smart. Getting community support documented. That wasn't me. That was them. They did it on their own." Lena's voice caught. "They're fighting for me, Adrian. People I barely know are putting their names on a document defending me. That's because you gave them something worth fighting for." He checked his watch. "I have to pick up Emma in 20 minutes, but I wanted to tell you, the lawyers got a judge to fast-track our countersuit. We're going to discovery in 2 weeks instead of 2 months. That's good. It means Sterling has to produce evidence to support his claims, and when he can't, when all he has is speculation and spite, the case falls apart." Adrian's smile was sharp. "He picked a fight with the wrong person." "With you or with me?" "Both." That night, working late again because sleeping meant thinking and thinking meant spiraling, Lena's phone rang. James Sterling himself. She almost didn't answer, then decided she was too angry not to. "What do you want?" "Lena." His voice was smooth, conciliatory. "I think we got off on the wrong foot. You accused me of corporate espionage. That's not a wrong foot. That's attempted career murder. I was hasty, emotional, but I've had time to think, and I'd like to offer you a deal." "I'm listening." "Drop the countersuit. Issue a public apology acknowledging that you may have inadvertently used concepts developed during your time at Sterling Associates. In exchange, I'll drop my lawsuit and even provide a neutral reference for future employment." Lena laughed. Actually laughed. "You're joking. I'm being generous. This lawsuit is expensive for both of us. Why drag it out when we could resolve it cleanly? Because you're lying. Because I didn't steal anything, and I'm not apologizing for work that's mine. And because even if I wanted to take your deal, which I don't, I wouldn't give you the satisfaction. You're making a mistake. Cole will get bored of this project, bored of you. And when he does, you'll have burned every bridge in this industry defending a principle that won't pay your rent. Then I'll burn them. I'd rather be broke and honest than successful and corrupt." She hung up before he could respond. Her hands were shaking. She called Adrian without thinking. "Sterling just offered me a deal," she said when he answered. "What kind of deal?" She told him, heard his sharp intake of breath. "And you said?" "I told him to go to hell." Maybe not in those exact words, but the sentiment was clear. Adrian was quiet for a moment. "That took guts. Or stupidity. I haven't decided which." "Lena, listen to me. What you just did, turning down the easy way out because it was the wrong way out, that's not stupidity. That's integrity. And it's rare. especially in this business. Integrity doesn't pay rent. No, but winning does. And we're going to win. His voice was firm. Get some sleep. Tomorrow we have a full design review, and I need you sharp. Adrian? Yeah? Thank you for believing me, for fighting with me, for all of it. Don't thank me yet. We're not done fighting. But they were winning. Slowly, inch by inch, they were winning. The design review went flawlessly. The team had coalesced into something that actually worked, with David pushing Lena to be better and Lena pushing back when he was wrong. The plans were nearly final, ready to present to the community board and then to the city for permits. 2 days later, Sterling's lawyers filed their evidence in discovery. Adrian's legal team tore it apart in less than an hour. The proprietary designs Sterling claimed were nothing but generic sketches that looked nothing like Lena's actual work. The development timeline they'd constructed fell apart under scrutiny. And the witnesses who said Lena had stolen files couldn't keep their stories straight. It was collapsing, exactly like Adrian had said it would. But the universe, Lena was learning, had a sixth sense of timing. Thursday afternoon, 3 weeks and 4 days into the project, Patricia came to find her in the design room. Lena, there's someone here to see you. Who? She said her name is Claire, from your old firm? Lena's stomach dropped. What does she want? She didn't say. She's waiting in the small conference room. Every instinct told Lena to refuse, to have security escort Claire out, to never give her former coworker the satisfaction of another conversation. But curiosity won. Or maybe it was the need to understand why someone would go this far to destroy another person. Claire was standing by the window when Lena walked in, looking out at the harbor. She'd lost weight since Lena had seen her last. Her suit was expensive, but didn't quite fit right anymore, like she'd bought it for a different version of herself. You came, Claire said, not turning around. You have 5 minutes. Sterling's dropping the lawsuit tomorrow. His lawyers told him it's unwinnable. Claire finally turned to face her. I thought you should know. Why are you telling me this? Because I'm the one who pushed him to file it. I convinced him you were a threat, that you'd stolen our work, that we needed to act before you made us all look bad. Her voice was flat. And I was wrong. Lena crossed her arms. You came all the way here to apologize? I came here to explain. Claire sat down, and now Lena could see how exhausted she looked, how defeated. When you left, when Adrian Cole hired you, it felt like proof that everything I'd worked for didn't matter. I went to the right schools, made the right connections, did everything I was supposed to do, and you just showed up with raw talent and skipped all the lines I'd stood in. So you tried to destroy me. I tried to protect myself. From the realization that maybe I wasn't as good as I thought I was, that maybe talent matters more than pedigree, she laughed, bitter. Turns out the thing I was most afraid of was true. I'm not going to feel sorry for you. I'm not asking you to. Claire stood. I'm trying to be honest. Probably too late, but still. What I did was wrong. The setup at the restaurant, the lawsuit, all of it. You didn't deserve any of it. No, Lena said quietly. I didn't. Claire walked to the door, paused. For what it's worth, that community center design you're working on. I saw the rendering someone leaked online. It's extraordinary, better than anything we ever produced at Sterling. After she left, Lena sat in the empty conference room and tried to process what had just happened. An apology she hadn't asked for from a person who'd tried to ruin her. It should have felt like victory. Instead, it just felt sad. Her phone buzzed. Adrian, conference room A, now. She found him there with David and the entire project team, plus a few people she didn't recognize. There was champagne. What's happening? Lena asked. Adrian was grinning, actually grinning. Sterling's lawyers just filed a motion to dismiss, with prejudice. The case is over. The room erupted. People were hugging, popping champagne, talking over each other. David clapped Lena on the shoulder hard enough to bruise. You did it, he said. You actually did it. We did it, Lena corrected. No. Adrian's voice cut through the celebration. He raised his glass. This win is Lena's. She's the one who had the courage to fight back, the integrity to refuse the easy way out, the talent that made Sterling so threatened he forgot how to be rational. To Lena, the best hire I've ever made. Everyone drank. Lena felt tears burning behind her eyes and refused to let them fall. Not here, not now. Later, after the team had filtered out and the champagne was gone, and it was just her and Adrian in the empty conference room, she finally let herself breathe. "It's really over?" she asked. "It's really over. I don't know what to feel." "That's fair. You've been running on adrenaline and fear for a month. Now that the threat's gone, your body doesn't know what to do." Lena sank into a chair. "Claire came to see me before you called the meeting. She apologized." Adrian's eyebrows went up. "Seriously?" "Said she was the one who pushed Sterling to file, that she was threatened by me." Lena looked at her hands. "Part of me wanted to tell her to go to hell, but mostly I just felt tired. Like she'd already taken enough of my energy and I didn't have any left to spare for anger." "That's growth or exhaustion. Hard to tell which." She laughed despite herself. "Probably both." She looked up at him. "What happens now?" "Now we build the damn building. Permits are almost through. We break ground in 6 weeks. You get to see your vision become real." "And after? After the building's done?" Adrian sat down across from her. "That depends. You signed a 3-month contract. We're 5 weeks in, 7 weeks left. After that," he paused. "After that, you're free. To stay, to go, to figure out what you want your career to look like without me in the middle of it." "What if I want you in the middle of it? The career or your life in general?" "Both." The air between them went charged. Adrian leaned forward. "Then we have 7 weeks to keep things professional, to finish this project and make it undeniable that you're here because you're brilliant, not because we're whatever we are. And then we figure out the rest." 7 weeks. 7 weeks. Lena stood, gathered her things. At the door, she turned back. "For the record, I'm pretty sure I already know what we are. I'm just waiting for the timeline to catch up with reality." Adrian's smile was slow, warm. "Me too." Outside, the October night had turned properly cold. The kind of cold that promised winter was coming whether New York was ready or not. Lena walked to the subway with her hands in her pockets and her head full of plans. 7 weeks to finish the design. 7 weeks to prove she belonged in this world. 7 weeks until she could stop pretending that working with Adrian Cole was purely professional and admit that somewhere between the lawsuit and the late nights and the quiet moments watching him be a father to Emma, she'd fallen for him completely. Her phone buzzed. A text from her mom. "Saw the news. I'm proud of you, baby." Lena typed back. "Thanks, Mom. I'm proud of me too." And for the first time since that autumn night when she'd walked into a restaurant expecting humiliation, she actually believed it. The permits came through on a Tuesday, which meant they could break ground the following Monday if the weather held. David had the construction schedule mapped out to the day. Contingency plans for contingency plans, the kind of obsessive organization that made massive projects actually happen. Lena had learned to appreciate his intensity over the past 6 weeks, had learned that his pushback on her designs wasn't personal. It was him making sure that what looked beautiful on paper would actually stand up in 3 dimensions. She was reviewing these final material selections when Patricia appeared at her desk with an expression Lena had learned to dread. The one that meant something had gone catastrophically wrong. "Conference room," Patricia said quietly. "Adrian's already there." "What happened?" "Just go." The conference room was full. Adrian, David, 3 people from the legal team, and 2 she didn't recognize. A woman in her 50s with steel gray hair and a man younger than Lena carrying a laptop like it contained nuclear codes. "Sit down," Adrian said. His voice was carefully controlled, which was somehow worse than if he'd been yelling. Lena sat. "What's going on?" The woman with gray hair spoke first. "Ms. Hart, I'm Rebecca Chen, head of corporate security for Cole Industries. This is Marcus Webb from our IT forensics team. We have a situation that requires immediate attention." Marcus opened his laptop, turned it so Lena could see the screen. It was an email, from her work account, to an address she'd never seen before. The subject line read, "Red Hook Community Center, Final Design Package." Attached were all of their files. Everything. Architectural drawings, budget breakdowns, material specifications, community feedback, contractor agreements. The entire project compressed into a single file and sent to someone outside the company. "I didn't send this," Lena said immediately. "I've never seen that email address. I would never—" "We know you didn't send it manually," Marcus interrupted. "The timestamp shows it was sent at 3:47 a.m. last Thursday. Security footage shows you left the building at 11:23 p.m. Wednesday night and didn't return until 8:15 a.m. Thursday morning." "Then how—" "Someone accessed your account remotely. used your credentials to log in from an IP address in Midtown, downloaded the entire project folder, and forwarded it to this external address. Adrian spoke up. The email address belongs to Westfield Properties, Gregory Westfield specifically. The name hit Lena like cold water. Westfield, the venture capitalist who'd been involved in the original setup at Oriole, the one who Adrian had mentioned was sniffing around his projects. Why would Westfield want our designs? Lena asked. Rebecca answered. Because 3 days ago, he submitted a proposal to the city for a mixed-use development in Red Hook. Same location, same community center concept. His plans are nearly identical to yours, just different enough that he could claim independent development. The room spun. He's trying to steal the project. He's trying to undercut us, Adrian corrected, his voice tight with fury. His proposal came in 20% below our budget. If the city accepts it, our permits get revoked and the project goes to him. But the designs are ours. We can prove— Can we? David cut in. He filed first. His team will claim they developed these concepts independently. And unless we can prove beyond doubt that he stole our work, it becomes a he said, she said that ties up the project in litigation for years. While the neighborhood that actually needs this building gets nothing, Lena finished quietly. Rebecca leaned forward. Ms. Hart, I need to ask you some questions. Have you shared your login credentials with anyone? Family, friends, former colleagues? No, never. Have you accessed your work email from any public computers? Coffee shops, libraries, anywhere your password might have been compromised? Just my laptop and my phone, both password protected. When's the last time you changed your password? Lena's stomach sank. I haven't. Not since Patricia set up my account. Marcus was already typing. That's likely how they got in. If someone had access to the initial temporary password and you never changed it, they could have been monitoring your account for weeks. Who would have access to temporary passwords? Adrian asked. IT department generates them. Patricia distributes them to new hires. Marcus pulled up another screen. But there's a log. Every time a password is generated, viewed, or distributed, it's recorded. He clicked through several screens while everyone waited in tense silence, then stopped. Here, your temporary password was accessed twice. Once by Patricia on your hire date, which is normal, and once by— He squinted at the screen. An admin account that was terminated 3 months ago. Can you trace it? Rebecca asked. Already on it. More typing. The terminated account belonged to Claire Hutchins, former employee of Sterling Associates who had system access during a brief consulting contract with our IT department last spring. The room went silent. Lena felt like she'd been punched. Claire, she whispered, but she apologized. She said she was wrong. She lied, Adrian said flatly. The apology was a distraction, get you to lower your guard while Westfield made his move. He stood, started pacing. The setup at Oriole. That was Westfield testing whether I'd bite on a personal connection. When I hired you, he saw an opportunity. Get Claire to help him access our files, steal the designs, submit them as his own. But why? Lena's voice was rising. The lawsuit failed. Sterling dropped it. Why keep going? Because Westfield's been trying to break into New York development for years, and I've blocked him at every turn. This is revenge wrapped in real estate. Adrian's jaw was tight. And he's using you to do it. David spoke up. We need to pull the project, immediately. If we can't prove theft before the city reviews his proposal, no. Lena surprised herself with how firm her voice was. We're not pulling anything. Everyone turned to look at her. He wants us to pull out, she continued. That's the whole point. Steal our work, make it look questionable, force us to withdraw rather than risk a legal fight. Then he gets the project by default, and the neighborhood gets a cheap knockoff of what they actually need. She stood. I'm not letting that happen. Lena, Adrian said carefully, I appreciate the sentiment, but nothing. We have proof he accessed my account illegally. We have timestamps, IP addresses, digital forensics. That's more than we had with Sterling. She turned to Marcus. Can you trace where the files went after Westfield received them? Prove they were used in his proposal? Marcus hesitated. Possibly. If he was sloppy, if he opened them on a device we can track, then track it, find it, build the case. Lena looked at Adrian. You said we'd fight, that we'd build something so good nobody could question it. That's still true? Adrian was looking at her with an expression she couldn't quite read. Pride, maybe. Or concern. Possibly both. Yeah, he said finally. That's still true. The next 72 hours were a blur of digital forensics, legal strategy sessions, and very little sleep. Marcus and his team worked around the clock, tracing the stolen files through networks and servers that Lena barely understood. Rebecca coordinated with law enforcement, building a criminal case for corporate espionage. David kept the construction timeline moving, refusing to let Westfield's sabotage derail their schedule. And Lena worked, refined details, double-checked specifications, prepared for the community board presentation that was scheduled for Friday night, regardless of what chaos was happening behind the scenes. On Thursday afternoon, exhausted and running on her fourth coffee of the day, she was in the design room when Emma appeared in the doorway. She'd been at the office more often lately. Adrian's sister was dealing with a family emergency in Philadelphia, and his mother could only help so much. "Hi, Lena," Emma said, clutching her ever-present Triceratops. "Daddy says you're fighting bad guys." Despite everything, Lena smiled. "Something like that." "Are you winning?" "I don't know yet, sweetie." Emma climbed into the chair next to her, studied the drawings spread across the table. "Is this the building you're making?" "Yeah, for the neighborhood where your dad grew up." "It's really pretty." Emma touched one of the renderings showing the rooftop garden. "Can kids play there?" "That's the plan. There's going to be a garden where they can grow vegetables and flowers, a library where they can read, a big room where they can dance or do art." "I wish we had that at my school." "You go to a nice school, Em." "I know, but it's not for everyone. It's just for kids whose families have lots of money." She was quiet for a moment. "Daddy says that's not fair, that everyone should have nice things." "Your dad's right." "That's why you're fighting? To make things fair?" Lena looked at this little girl who understood more than she should have to. "Yeah, that's exactly why." Emma hugged her Triceratops tighter. "Good. Because Triceratops don't run away from fights. They charge." "So I've heard." Adrian found them there 20 minutes later, Emma drawing her own version of the community center while Lena worked. He looked like he hadn't slept in days, which was probably accurate. "Marcus found something," he said quietly. "We need to talk." They left Emma with Patricia and went to Adrian's office. Marcus was already there with Rebecca and the legal team, everyone looking simultaneously exhausted and energized. "Show her," Adrian said. Marcus pulled up his screen. Westfield was sloppy. When he received your files, he opened them on his personal laptop, which is connected to the same cloud storage he uses for Westfield properties, which means when his team modified your designs to create their proposal, they saved the work files to a shared server. "You hacked Westfield's server?" Lena asked. "We obtained a warrant based on the evidence of your account being accessed illegally," Rebecca corrected. "Everything we found is admissible." "And what did you find?" Marcus clicked through several screens showing file metadata, modification dates, user access logs. Proof that Westfield's proposal was created using your original files as templates. They changed materials, adjusted dimensions, removed some features to lower costs, but the underlying structure, the spatial relationships, the design DNA, it's all yours. "Can we prove it in time?" Adrian asked. "The city reviews his proposal on Monday." "We can prove it by tomorrow," Rebecca said. "I've already contacted the city planning office. They're postponing the review pending investigation of fraud allegations." "And Westfield?" Lena asked. "We'll be lucky if he only faces civil penalties." Rebecca's smile was sharp. "Accessing computer systems without authorization, theft of intellectual property, fraud in government contracting. He's looking at serious criminal charges." Adrian sat down heavily. "So it's over." "Not quite." One of the lawyers spoke up. "Westfield will argue the designs are generic, that any competent architect would arrive at similar solutions for that site. We'll need to prove not just that he used your files, but that Lena's designs are distinctive enough to be considered proprietary work." "They are distinctive," David said from the doorway. Nobody had heard him come in. "I've been doing this for 15 years. I've seen 1,000 community center proposals. Lena's work isn't just good, it's signature. The way she integrates the outdoor spaces, the material choices, the flow between public and private areas. You could show me her drawings without a name attached, and I'd know they were hers." "Then that's what we'd tell the city," Adrian said, "and the press, and anyone else who needs to hear it." By Friday morning, the story had broken. Not the way Westfield wanted, with him as the innovative developer bringing affordable community space to Brooklyn, but as what it actually was: corporate espionage, stolen designs, and a billionaire trying to undercut a legitimate project. The press ate it up, especially when someone leaked the detail that Westfield had been involved in the original setup that brought Adrian and Lena together. The narrative practically wrote itself. Spurned businessman tries to destroy the woman who rejected his scheme. Lena's phone was blowing up with interview requests, think pieces about women in architecture, comparisons to other high-profile design theft cases. She ignored all of it, because Friday night was the community board presentation, and that was the only audience that actually mattered. The church basement was packed. Mrs. Rodriguez had apparently spread the word, because there had to be 100 people crammed into a space meant for 50. Families with kids, elderly residents, business owners, teachers, people who'd lived in Red Hook their entire lives, and people who'd just moved in. Lena set up her presentation with hands that wouldn't quite stop shaking. David was there as backup, Adrian in the front row with Emma on his lap. Marcus and Rebecca had come too, along with half the project team, a show of support that made Lena's throat tight. Mrs. Rodriguez called the meeting to order, explained the situation, the stolen designs, Westfield's attempted theft, the fact that their community center had become the center of a corporate war. Then she turned the floor over to Lena. "I'm not going to pretend the past week hasn't been a disaster," Lena started. No polished opening, no practice speech, just truth. Someone tried to steal this project, tried to take the work we've all done together, the ideas you shared, the needs you identified, the vision we built as a community, and use it for profit. She advanced to the first slide. The original design, the one she'd shown at the very first community meeting. But here's what they couldn't steal. They couldn't steal the fact that this design came from listening to you, to Mrs. Rodriguez talking about needing a commercial kitchen for her catering business, to the dance teacher who wanted studio space, to the parents who needed after-school programs, to the kids who wanted somewhere to just be kids. Next slide. The refined design, incorporating months of feedback. They couldn't steal the relationships we've built, the trust you've placed in me to get this right. The community input that made this building better than anything I could have designed alone. Next slide. Construction timeline, budget breakdown, photos of the actual site. And they couldn't steal the fact that in 6 days, we're breaking ground. On your building, in your neighborhood, with your names on the wall as the people who made it happen. She went through the rest of the presentation, technical details, timelines, what to expect during construction. But the room was already sold. These people had been fighting for Lena before she'd even known she needed defending. During the Q&A, someone asked about the lawsuit, about Westfield, about whether the project was safe from further attacks. "Nothing's ever completely safe," Lena answered honestly. "But we've got documentation, legal protection, and a community that won't let this project die quietly. So yeah, I think we're going to be okay." After the meeting, people came up to shake her hand, hug her, tell her stories about what this building would mean for their families. A teenage girl showed Lena sketches she'd done of the dance studio, asking if she could paint a mural there someday. An elderly man who'd lived in Red Hook for 60 years thanked her for remembering that his neighborhood mattered. Mrs. Rodriguez waited until almost everyone had left before approaching. "You did good, mija." "I haven't built it yet." "I'm not talking about the building. I'm talking about how you handled all this, the attacks, the theft, the pressure. You didn't fold, didn't let them make you small. That's what this neighborhood needed to see. Someone who fights for us the same way we fight for each other." After she left, Lena started packing up her presentation materials. Adrian appeared beside her, Emma half asleep on his shoulder. "You were amazing," he said quietly. "I was terrified." "Couldn't tell." "Good. That was the plan." They walked out together into the November night that had turned properly cold. The site was 2 blocks away, still just a vacant lot with chain-link fence, but Lena could see it now. Not what it was, but what it would become. 6 more days, Adrian said, reading her mind. 6 more days, and then it's real. It's already real. You made it real the moment you decided to fight for it. Emma stirred, mumbled something about dinosaurs and gardens. Adrian adjusted his hold on her, and Lena felt something shift in her chest. This man who'd taken a chance on her. This little girl who'd decided Lena was worth trusting. This project that had become so much more than a building. "Adrian?" "Yeah?" "After we break ground, after the contract's up, can we talk about what happens next?" He looked at her, and even in the dim streetlight she could see the warmth in his expression. "I've been waiting 2 months to have that conversation." "Good, because I'm pretty sure I already know what I want the answer to be." "What's that?" "Everything. The project, the job, you. All of it. If the offer's still open." "The offer's been open since the night we met. I was just waiting for you to be ready to take it." They walked back to where Marcus was waiting with the car. Emma fast asleep now, Lena's presentation materials tucked under Adrian's free arm. Simple domestic details that felt significant in ways Lena couldn't quite articulate. Monday morning came too fast and not fast enough. The construction crew was on site by 7, Marcus's team having swept the area for any last-minute sabotage attempts from Westfield's people. The neighborhood had turned out too. Mrs. Rodriguez and what looked like half the church, local business owners, families with kids who should have been in school but were getting a better education, watching their community fight for itself. The press was there. Because of course they were. This wasn't just a groundbreaking anymore. It was a statement. Adrian handled the official remarks, talking about investment in communities, about building things that mattered, about how the project almost didn't happen but would succeed because people refused to let it die. Then he introduced Lena. She stood in front of microphones and cameras, wearing her nicest clothes and her work boots, and told the truth. 2 months ago, I walked into a restaurant expecting to be humiliated. Instead, I met someone who saw potential where other people only saw a poor woman from Ohio who didn't belong. Today, we're breaking ground on a project that people tried to steal because they understood something important. This isn't just a building. It's proof that beautiful spaces, thoughtful design, and community investment shouldn't only be for people who can afford them. She gestured to the site behind her. In 9 months, this lot will be a community center. It'll have a commercial kitchen where people can start businesses, a library where kids can read, dance studios, art rooms, meeting spaces, a rooftop garden. But more than that, it'll be a place that says to this neighborhood, you matter, your families matter, your dreams matter. She paused, looking out at the faces watching her. Mrs. Rodriguez, David, Emma sitting on Adrian's shoulders, the families who'd trusted her with their hopes. Someone once told me that the measure of a person is what they do when everything's falling apart. Well, this neighborhood showed me what that looks like. When people tried to destroy this project, you fought. When they tried to make me quit, you defended me. When it would have been easier to walk away, you stood firm. So this building? It's yours. Every beam, every brick, every design choice that makes it special. You made this happen. The crowd erupted. Someone started chanting, "Break ground," and it caught like fire until everyone was shouting it. Lena picked up the ceremonial shovel, ridiculous golden thing that probably cost more than her first car, and drove it into the earth. Adrian joined her, then David, then Mrs. Rodriguez. Emma wanted to help too, so Adrian lifted her down, and together they moved symbolic dirt while cameras clicked and the neighborhood cheered. It should have felt triumphant. And it did. But there was also fear underneath, the kind that comes from knowing you've promised something massive, and now you actually have to deliver. Later, after the press had left and the crew had started actual work and the crowd had dispersed, Lena stood at the edge of the site watching the excavator tear into the ground. Real work now. No going back. Having doubts? Adrian appeared beside her, Emma back at school finally, his tie loosened and his sleeves rolled up. Terrified I'll screw it up. You won't. You don't know that. Yeah, I do. He was quiet for a moment. Your contract's up in 2 weeks. I know. I want to offer you a permanent position. Senior designer, full benefits, equity stake in the projects you lead. He turned to face her. But I need to know you're staying because it's what you want, not because you feel obligated or because we're whatever we are. What if I'm staying for both reasons? Then I need the professional reason to be primary, because I can't have you resenting this job, resenting me 5 years from now because you felt trapped. Lena looked at the site, at the future taking shape in dirt and machinery. I'm not trapped. I'm exactly where I want to be, doing exactly what I want to do, with people I trust. She met his eyes, including you, especially you. Then the job's yours if you want it. I want it. And the other thing, the personal thing, I want that too. But you're right. We should probably figure out how to separate work and personal before we completely merge them. Adrian smiled. Dinner. Tomorrow night. Actual date, not business meeting. We'll figure out boundaries like adults. Can adults still make out in expensive restaurants? I'm a billionaire. I'll buy the restaurant if I have to. She laughed, and it felt good, felt right, felt like maybe after 2 months of fighting, she was finally allowed to just be happy. But the universe wasn't done testing her yet. Tuesday afternoon, right as Lena was getting ready to leave for her date with Adrian, Patricia appeared at her desk with that expression again. What now? Lena asked. Gregory Westfield's lawyer just filed a motion. They're claiming that since the project used stolen designs, even though Westfield was the one who stole them, the whole development is tainted and should be halted pending further investigation. That's insane. We proved he stole from us, not the other way around. I know, but it's a legal maneuver to tie us up in court. If a judge grants even a temporary injunction, construction stops. The crew goes to other jobs. The timeline falls apart. Lena sat down heavily. How long? Could be days, could be months. Months. Lena felt something crack inside her chest. We promised those people 9 months. We broke ground yesterday. And now we're supposed to tell them it might not happen because some asshole with lawyers won't accept that he lost. I know it's not fair. Fair? Lena stood up, rage finally overriding fear. Mrs. Rodriguez has been waiting 5 years for someone to invest in that neighborhood. 5 years of promises from politicians and developers who took photos and then disappeared. And now we're going to be just like them because Westfield's throwing a tantrum? Patricia was quiet for a moment. Adrian's in with the lawyers now. They're trying to fast-track a hearing, get the motion dismissed. How fast? Maybe Friday. And in the meantime? In the meantime, we keep working, keep moving forward like nothing's wrong. Because the moment we stop, the moment we act like Westfield has any legitimate claim, we've already lost. Lena canceled the dinner date, texted Adrian that they needed to focus on the emergency, that romance could wait. He understood, because of course he did. Because he was fighting the same battle she was. Wednesday and Thursday were a blur of legal filings, emergency motions, and lawyers arguing about precedents and statutes that made Lena's head spin. The judge scheduled a hearing for Friday afternoon, which meant they had 48 hours to build their case. Lena barely left the office. Worked through the night pulling together documentation, every email from the community, every design iteration showing her original work, every piece of evidence that this project was legitimate and Westfield was a thief trying to use the legal system to finish what theft couldn't accomplish. Friday morning, exhausted and running on spite, she was reviewing files when she found something. An email thread from before she'd even been hired. Adrian and Westfield negotiating about a different property, and in one of the messages, Westfield had written, "If I can't beat you legitimately, I'll find another way. You're not the only one who can play dirty." It wasn't a smoking gun. But it was pattern. Proof that Westfield had a history of threatening Adrian, of looking for ways to undermine his projects. She forwarded it to Rebecca and the legal team with a single line. "This help?" The response came back in minutes. "You beautiful genius. This helps." The hearing was at 2 p.m. in a courthouse downtown that smelled like floor wax and institutional despair. Lena sat in the gallery with Adrian on one side and David on the other, watching lawyers argue about her work like it was abstract legal theory instead of something that would impact real lives. Westfield's lawyer was smooth, well-dressed, the kind of expensive that thought it could buy truth. He argued that the project was tainted by the disputed ownership of the designs, that the community would be better served by waiting until all legal questions were resolved, that rushing forward would only expose the city to liability. Then their lawyer stood up, presented the evidence of theft, the digital forensics, the pattern of harassment, and the email. Westfield's own words proving this wasn't about protecting the community, it was about revenge. The judge, a woman in her 60s who looked like she'd heard every scam in the book, listened to both sides. Then she looked directly at Westfield. "Mr. Westfield, I've reviewed the evidence. The digital forensics clearly show that you accessed Miss Hart's files illegally and used them to create your proposal. Your motion to halt construction is denied. Furthermore, I'm referring this case to the district attorney's office for criminal investigation." She banged her gavel. "This project moves forward. Don't waste my time again." Outside the courthouse, Lena stood on the steps breathing air that felt different somehow. Lighter. Like a weight she hadn't realized she was carrying had finally lifted. Adrian was on the phone with the construction crew telling them to ramp up the schedule. David was already calculating how to make up for the days they'd lost. Rebecca was coordinating with law enforcement about Westfield's impending arrest. And Lena just stood there, letting herself feel it. Victory. Actual, real, undeniable victory. Her phone rang. Mrs. Rodriguez. "We won," Lena said before the older woman could speak. "I know, mija. I've been praying all day. Well, not praying exactly. More like telling the universe if it let that pendejo win, I was going to have words." Her laugh was warm. When you coming back to the neighborhood? Tomorrow. We need to update the community board, reset the timeline. Good, because I'm making dinner. You, Adrian, that beautiful little girl of his. No arguments. After she hung up, Adrian appeared beside her. Dinner at Mrs. Rodriguez's? Apparently it's mandatory. Good, because I'm tired of canceled dates. He turned her to face him, and for once they were somewhere it didn't matter if someone saw them, photographed them, made assumptions. We did it. You did it. We're not done. 9 months of construction, 1,000 things that could still go wrong. Lena, just for a minute, could you stop planning for disaster and accept that we won? She tried. Looked at him standing there in his expensive suit that he'd loosened sometime during the hearing, his tie askew, his hair disheveled from running his hands through it. This man who'd fought for her before he even knew her, who'd kept fighting even when it cost him time, money, reputation. Thank you, she said quietly, for all of it. For believing in me when you had no reason to. For standing with me when walking away would have been smarter. For being exactly the kind of person I didn't know still existed. You done? Yeah, I think so. Good. He kissed her. Right there on the courthouse steps, in full view of anyone passing by, lawyers and strangers, and probably a few cameras. Kissed her like they'd been waiting months for permission and were done asking for it. When they broke apart, Lena was smiling. Actually, genuinely smiling in a way that had nothing to do with professional victories or legal wins and everything to do with being seen by someone who understood what it cost to keep fighting. So, Adrian said, about that permanent position. I'm taking it, obviously. And about us. I'm taking that too, if the offer's still open. Always was. Just waiting for you to be ready. I'm ready, Lena said. And meant it. Let's build something beautiful. They did. Over the next 9 months, through winter freezes and spring floods and summer heat that made working in half-finished buildings feel like punishment. Through supply delays and permit issues and 100 small disasters that threatened to derail the timeline. Through it all, Lena showed up, fought, adjusted, made it work. And slowly, beautifully, the building took shape. The rooftop garden was the last piece to fall into place. Lena stood there on a humid August morning, 9 months and 2 weeks after they'd broken ground, watching contractors install the final planter boxes while sweat ran down her back, and her phone buzzed with 17 different urgent issues that all needed solving yesterday. The commercial kitchen's ventilation system was making a noise nobody could identify. The dance studio floors were beautiful, but slightly off-level in one corner. The main gathering space had acoustics that were too good. Voices bounced in ways that made large groups sound like chaos. Small problems in the grand scheme, but problems nonetheless that needed fixing before the opening in 3 weeks. The tomato plants are dying, said a voice behind her. Miguel, the landscaper who donated most of the rooftop garden design, in exchange for the good press. He was kneeling by one of the planters, examining brown leaves with the concentration of a surgeon. Soil's too dry. Drainage isn't working right. Lena wanted to cry, or scream, or possibly both. Can you fix it? Yeah, but it'll cost extra. Need to redo the irrigation, maybe replace the soil mix. How much extra? He named a number that made her wince. They were already over budget by 6%, even with all of David's careful planning and the donations they'd secured. Every additional expense meant convincing Adrian to approve overages, meant justifying costs to the board, meant explaining to the community why promises were getting expensive. Do it, Lena said. But can you do it in 2 weeks? Miguel looked at her like she'd asked him to grow the plants by hand. 2 weeks? That's impossible, I know. Everything about this project has been impossible. Please try anyway. After he left, Lena sat on one of the completed benches and let herself have exactly 3 minutes of feeling overwhelmed. The view from up here was extraordinary. The harbor, the Manhattan skyline, the neighborhood spread out below. From up here, you could see both where Red Hook had been and where it was going. The old warehouses being converted to artist spaces. The new restaurants opening on Van Brunt. The elementary school where Adrian's sister taught, where Emma would be starting first grade in a month. And in the middle of it all, this building, her building. Still imperfect, still unfinished, but undeniably real. Her phone rang. Adrian. Where are you? He asked. Rooftop, having a minor breakdown about tomato plants. Sounds serious. Want company? Always. He appeared 10 minutes later with coffee from the good place, the one that cost too much, but tasted like maybe life was worth living. Emma was with him, wearing a shirt with a T-Rex on it and light-up sneakers that blinked with every step. "We brought reinforcements," Emma announced, holding up a bakery bag. "Daddy said you needed cookies." "Your daddy's a genius." They sat on the bench together, Lena and Adrian and Emma between them, eating cookies and drinking overpriced coffee while the city hummed below. Emma chattered about her upcoming birthday party. She wanted a dinosaur theme, obviously, but also maybe princesses or possibly astronauts. She couldn't decide. "Why not all three?" Lena suggested. "Dinosaur princesses in space." Emma's eyes went wide. "Can you do that?" "It's your party. You can do anything." After Emma wandered off to examine the garden beds, Adrian turned to Lena. "You okay? And don't say fine. I can tell when you're lying." "I'm scared," Lena admitted. 3 weeks until opening, and there are still a dozen things wrong. What if we open and people hate it? What if all this work, all this fighting, and we've built something that doesn't actually serve the community the way we promised? Then we'll fix it. We'll adjust. We'll keep working until it's right. Adrian took her hand. "But Lena, you need to look at what you've accomplished. 9 months ago, this was dirt. Now it's a building. Not just any building, something beautiful that's going to change lives." "You sound very sure." "I am sure." "Want to know why?" "Tell me." "Because yesterday I was here talking to the contractor, and Mrs. Rodriguez came by with her daughter, the one who wants to start a catering business but can't afford commercial kitchen space. And Mrs. Rodriguez started crying. Just stood in that kitchen and cried because for the first time her daughter's dream felt possible." Adrian's voice was soft. "That's what you built. Possibility." Lena leaned against his shoulder, letting herself take comfort in his steadiness. Over the past 9 months, they'd figured out how to be partners, professional and personal, keeping the boundaries clear at work, but letting them blur everywhere else. It wasn't always smooth. There were days when the stress of the project bled into their relationship, when disagreements about design choices felt personal, when the pressure of being both colleagues and something more felt like too much to balance. But they'd learned to argue productively, learned when to push and when to step back, learned that loving someone didn't mean always agreeing with them, and that sometimes the best support was just showing up with coffee and cookies and faith that things would work out. "I got a job offer," Lena said quietly. "Yesterday. A firm in California. High-end residential, celebrity clients, salary almost double what I'm making here." Adrian went very still. "Are you taking it?" "No. But I wanted you to know it existed, that I'm staying by choice, not because I don't have options." "Why are you staying?" "Because I don't want to design mansions for people who have everything. I want to design spaces for people who deserve beautiful things but never get them. I want to do this." She gestured at the building around them, over and over, until it's normal for poor neighborhoods to have community centers this nice, until nobody's surprised that someone actually cared enough to make it right. Adrian kissed her temple. "Have I mentioned lately that I'm crazy about you?" "Not since this morning. I'm crazy about you." Emma came running back. "Lena, the tomato plants are sad. Can we fix them?" "Miguel's working on it, sweetie." "But what if he can't? What if they die and then the garden doesn't work and everyone's disappointed?" Lena pulled Emma onto her lap. "Then we'll plant new ones, and if those die, we'll try something else. Maybe peppers or herbs. The garden doesn't have to be perfect to be good." Emma considered this with the seriousness of someone who'd learned early that perfection was a trap. "Daddy says the same thing about me, that I don't have to be perfect." "Your daddy's very smart." "I know, that's why I'm keeping him." Adrian laughed, and Lena felt something settle in her chest. This was what mattered, not the expensive finishes or the perfect details. Just people caring for each other, building something together, making space for growth and mistakes and second chances. The next 2 weeks were chaos. The ventilation got fixed, the floors got leveled, the acoustics got dampened with sound panels that David found on sale from a theater that was renovating. Miguel worked miracles with the garden, replacing soil and irrigation and somehow convincing the tomato plants to stop dying out of what Lena suspected was pure stubborn determination. And slowly, room by room, the building came together. The commercial kitchen gleamed, all stainless steel and professional equipment that Mrs. Rodriguez's daughter couldn't stop photographing. The dance studios had floors that felt like clouds and mirrors that made the space seem infinite. The library had floor-to-ceiling windows and reading nooks designed for kids and adults, for people who wanted silence and people who wanted company. The art rooms had good light and better ventilation. The meeting spaces had furniture that was comfortable and durable and beautiful. It wasn't perfect. There were scuff marks on walls and scratches on floors and 100 tiny imperfections that only Lena seemed to notice. But it was real, and it was theirs. The opening was scheduled for a Saturday in late August, right before school started. They'd invited the entire neighborhood, the press, the city officials who'd supported them, the contractors and designers and workers who'd made it happen. David had orchestrated it like a military operation. Timeline, speakers, contingency plans for contingency plans. Lena woke up that morning in Adrian's apartment, having spent the night because going home to Astoria felt too far away from the center of everything. Emma was already awake, wearing her special dress, purple with dinosaurs, because she'd decided regular party dresses were boring. "Are you nervous?" Emma asked, appearing in the doorway of Adrian's room where Lena was attempting to make her hair look professional. Terrified. "But you made something really cool, so it's good nervous, right? Like before my birthday party?" Exactly like that. Emma climbed onto the bed, watching Lena in the mirror. "Daddy says after today everything changes." "What do you think he means?" "I think he means you're not just his work friend anymore. You're his real friend, his family friend." Emma swung her legs, thoughtful. "I like that. I never had a family friend before who wasn't related to me." Lena's throat went tight. "I like it too, Em." "Good, because you're staying, right? You're not going to California or anywhere else." "I'm staying." "Promise?" "Promise." They arrived at the center at 9, 3 hours before the official opening. The site was already buzzing with activity, caterers setting up, sound crew checking microphones, David directing traffic with the efficiency of someone who'd planned this down to the minute. Mrs. Rodriguez found Lena immediately, pulling her into a hug that smelled like perfume and tamales. "Mija, it's beautiful, even better than the drawings. You haven't seen inside yet." "Don't need to, I can feel it. This building has soul." The morning passed in a blur of last-minute adjustments, press interviews that Lena had gotten better at but still hated, and community members arriving early to help set up. The teenage girl who wanted to paint murals had created something stunning in the main gathering space. The neighborhood's history told in vibrant colors, old warehouses and new dreams existing side by side. At 11:30, people started arriving in earnest. Families with kids, elderly residents who'd lived through Red Hook's decline and were here to witness its renewal, business owners and teachers, and ordinary people who'd heard about the project and wanted to see what all the fighting had been about. By noon, the place was packed. David handled the opening remarks, thanking the contractors and donors and city officials with the practiced ease of someone who did this professionally. Then he introduced Adrian. Adrian's speech was short, talking about investment and community and how buildings could either divide neighborhoods or bring them together. Then he did something Lena hadn't expected. He talked about his father. "My dad worked construction in this neighborhood for 20 years. He helped build half the warehouses you see around us. And then the work dried up and those buildings sat empty, and nobody seemed to care that the neighborhood that had built them was dying." Adrian's voice was steady, but there was emotion underneath. The center isn't about making up for that abandonment. Nothing can. But it's about saying that Red Hook matters, that the people here matter, that beauty and investment and opportunity shouldn't only exist where property values are already high. Then he introduced Lena. Standing at that microphone, looking out at hundreds of faces, Lena felt every moment of the past 10 months crash over her. The night at Oriole when she'd expected humiliation and found possibility. The lawsuit that had tried to destroy her. The theft that had almost killed the project. The endless nights working, fighting, refusing to quit. "I grew up in a town where people told me wanting more was greedy," she started. "Where reaching for something beyond what my parents had was seen as rejecting where I came from. So I learned to make myself small, to not ask for too much, to be grateful for whatever scraps I got." She paused, found Mrs. Rodriguez in the crowd, then Emma, then Adrian. "But this neighborhood taught me something different. You taught me that wanting beautiful things isn't greedy, it's human. That fighting for spaces that serve communities isn't radical, it's basic decency. That the people who build cities deserve to enjoy them." She gestured to the building behind her. "This center exists because a community refused to accept that they didn't deserve it. Because when people tried to steal it, you defended it. Because when I was ready to give up, you reminded me why it mattered." Her voice cracked slightly. "So this isn't my building, it's yours. Every room, every choice, Every detail that makes it special, that came from you. I just drew the pictures. The crowd erupted. Lena stepped back from the microphone, and Mrs. Rodriguez led a march into the building like they were storming a castle. People spread through the rooms, touching walls, testing equipment, crying over the commercial kitchen and the dance studios and the library that felt like someone had actually thought about what communities needed instead of what was cheapest to build. Lena found herself in the rooftop garden, surrounded by families examining the now thriving tomato plants and the herbs that Miguel had somehow convinced to grow. Kids were running between the planter boxes, their laughter echoing off the buildings around them. Parents were taking photos, already imagining how this space would become part of their lives. You did it, David said, appearing beside her. Actually did it. On time, barely over budget, and better than the original plans. We did it, Lena corrected. No, this was you. I've worked on 100 projects. Most of them are fine, functional, but this, he looked around, this is special. And it's special because you wouldn't let it be anything less. After he left, Lena walked through the building, listening to people discover rooms and make plans and talk about all the ways they'd use the space. The dance teacher was already scheduling classes. Mrs. Rodriguez's daughter was measuring the kitchen for her catering setup. A group of teenagers was planning a recording session in the music room. It was working. Actually working. The way she'd dreamed it would, but had been too afraid to believe was possible. In the main gathering space, someone had started music. Kids were dancing, parents were talking, the whole room alive with the kind of chaotic joy that happens when people feel safe and welcome and valued. Emma found Lena there, dragged her onto the makeshift dance floor. They spun in circles until Emma got dizzy, and Lena laughed so hard she couldn't breathe. This is the best party ever, Emma declared, even better than my birthday. High praise. You know what would make it perfect? What's that? If you married Daddy, and then you could live with us all the time, and we could be a real family. Lena nearly tripped. That's complicated. Adults always say that when things are actually simple. Emma was completely matter-of-fact. You love him, he loves you, I love you both. That's not complicated. When did you get so smart? I'm 6 now, I know things. Adrian appeared, saving Lena from having to respond to his 6-year-old daughter's marriage proposal. Someone's supposed to be eating cake, not arranging her father's love life. But I'm good at it, Emma protested. That's what concerns me. He looked at Lena. Can I steal you for a minute? They went to his office, a small room on the second floor that overlooked the main gathering space. From here, you could see everything. The families celebrating, the community claiming their space, the building that had fought so hard to exist finally serving its purpose. I have something for you, Adrian said, pulling an envelope from his desk. Inside was a contract. Director of Community Design, Coal Industries. Significant salary increase, equity stake, authority to lead projects from conception to completion. And at the bottom, a clause that made Lena's breath catch. Employee is granted full creative control over all community-focused developments, with final design decisions resting with the director rather than CEO. You're giving me control? Lena asked. I'm giving you what you've earned, the authority to do this, he gestured to the building around them, without having to fight me or anyone else every step of the way. He paused. And I'm doing it because I watched you build this, and I realized something. You're better at this than I am. Not the business part. I've got that covered. But the part that actually matters? Understanding what communities need? Designing spaces that change lives? That's you. Lena looked at the contract, then at Adrian. This is a lot of responsibility. You can handle it. What if I screw up? Then you'll fix it, just like you've fixed everything else that's tried to break you. Adrian took her hands. Lena, I've been doing this for 15 years, building things, making money, trying to prove I was more than just a poor kid from Brooklyn who got lucky. And none of it meant anything until I met you, until I watched you fight for something that mattered. Adrian, I'm not done. Emma asked me yesterday why I love you. You want to know what I told her? Lena's heart was hammering. What? I told her that you're the kind of person who walks into a setup meant to humiliate her and comes out of it with a career. Who gets accused of theft and fights back by building something undeniable. Who takes a vacant lot in a forgotten neighborhood and turns it into proof that people matter. He smiled. And I told her that someday when she's older, she should find someone who makes her want to be better while loving her exactly as she is, because that's what you do for me. Lena was crying now, happy tears that she didn't bother wiping away. I love you too. In case that wasn't obvious. It was, but it's nice to hear anyway. They kissed, and through the window behind them, Lena could see the party continuing, the community celebrating, the building standing as proof that sometimes the things meant to break you actually make you stronger. Later, after the party had wound down and the press had left, and the cleanup crew was handling the mess, Lena stood in the empty main gathering space with Adrian and Emma and David and Mrs. Rodriguez. The late afternoon light was streaming through the windows, turning everything golden. "You know what this needs?" Mrs. Rodriguez said. "A plaque. Something that tells people who built this and why it matters." "I've got the contractor working on it," David said. "Bronze, installed by the main entrance. Should be ready next week." "What's it going to say?" Lena asked. David pulled out his phone, showed her the draft. It was perfect, simple, direct, true. Just the name of the center, the date it opened, and one line. Built by a community that refused to be forgotten. "No designer credit?" Lena asked. "Your name's on the architectural plans. Let the building speak for itself." After everyone else had left, Lena and Adrian walked through the empty building one last time, Emma asleep on Adrian's shoulder, her dinosaur tucked under her arm. Every room felt different now, full of ghosts of the celebration, echoes of laughter and music and joy. "You happy?" Adrian asked. Lena thought about it. Thought about the girl who'd walked into Oriole 10 months ago expecting to be the punchline of someone else's joke. Thought about how far she'd come, how hard she'd fought, how many times she'd almost quit and didn't. "Yeah," she said, "I'm happy. Terrified about what comes next, but happy." "Good. Because what comes next is 3 more projects like this. Different neighborhoods, different needs, same philosophy, beautiful spaces for people who deserve them." 3? For starters, if this keeps working, if communities keep responding the way Red Hook did, I want to make this what Cole Industries is known for. Not luxury condos or office towers, places that matter. "That's going to cost money." "I have money. Might as well use it for something that'll matter after I'm gone." They locked up the building, setting the alarm that would keep it safe until Monday when it would open for real, for regular hours, for the ordinary magic of being a space people used instead of visited. In the car, Emma woke up enough to mumble, "Did we win?" "Yeah, baby," Adrian said. "We won." "Good. I like winning." Back at Adrian's apartment, after Emma was in bed and the city was settling into Saturday night rhythms, Lena and Adrian sat on his balcony drinking wine and watching the lights. "I signed the contract," Lena said. "The one you gave me." "Good. I have some conditions, though." "Of course you do. I want Emma involved in the next project, not in a creepy use-your-kid-for-publicity way, but I want her to see how buildings get made. Want her to understand that the spaces around us are choices, and she gets to help make those choices." Adrian was quiet for a moment. "You're thinking long-term. Is that okay?" "It's more than okay." He pulled her closer. "Lena, I know we've only been together a few months. I know it's fast, but I need you to know what I feel for you isn't temporary. It's not going away when the next crisis hits or the next project gets hard. This is it for me." "Good," Lena said, "because I'm not going anywhere. You're stuck with me." Best news I've heard all day. They sat there as the night deepened, talking about the next projects, about Emma's school year, about the life they were building that was somehow both terrifyingly uncertain and completely right. At some point, Lena fell asleep against his shoulder, and Adrian carried her to bed the way he carried Emma, gentle and sure. The next morning, Lena woke up to find Emma standing next to the bed, holding her triceratops and looking serious. "I have a question," Emma whispered. "What's that, sweetie?" "If you and Daddy get married, can I help design the wedding?" Lena laughed, quiet enough not to wake Adrian. "We're not getting married yet, Em. But you will eventually, right? Because you love each other, and you make Daddy smile the way he used to before Mommy died." The observation hit harder than it should have. Lena sat up, pulled Emma onto the bed. "You miss your mom. Sometimes? Mostly I just miss Daddy being happy. But he's happy now, when you're here." Emma was matter-of-fact in that way kids were about enormous truths. "So I think you should stay, forever." "I'm planning on it." "Good, because I already told my friends at school that I have a Lena now, and it would be embarrassing if you left." Monday morning, the community center opened for regular hours. Lena wasn't there. She was at the Cole Industries office, starting preliminary work on the next project, a recreation center in the Bronx that would serve a neighborhood even more neglected than Red Hook had been. But she got texts throughout the day. Photos from Mrs. Rodriguez of her daughter teaching her first cooking class in the commercial kitchen. A video from the dance teacher of kids spinning in the studios. Messages from community members thanking her, telling her about programs they were starting, asking if she could visit and see what they were building in the space she'd created. Each message felt like proof that it was real, that the building existed independent of her now, living its own life, serving its purpose. That evening, she met Adrian and Emma at the Center for the Sunset. They went up to the rooftop garden where the tomato plants had actually started producing fruit and the herbs smelled like possibility. "Miguel's a miracle worker," Lena said, examining the healthy plants. "Or you just believed in him enough that he believed in himself," Adrian suggested. "That's very poetic for a real estate developer." "I have hidden depths." They watched the sun set over the harbor, Emma collecting cherry tomatoes and announcing she was going to make spaghetti sauce, even though she'd never made spaghetti sauce in her life. The city spread out around them, millions of lives happening in millions of rooms, most of which Lena would never see or touch or influence. But this one room, this one building, these specific lives, she'd changed those, had taken a vacant lot and turned it into possibility, had fought through theft and lawsuits and her own fear to create something beautiful. And maybe that was enough. Maybe you didn't have to change the whole world. Maybe just changing one corner of it, making it better for the people who lived there, loving them enough to fight for them. Maybe that was the point. "I've been thinking," Adrian said, watching Emma chase butterflies between the planter boxes, "about what comes after the next 3 projects." "What comes after?" "I want to start a foundation dedicated to community development in underserved neighborhoods, hire designers like you, fund projects that wouldn't otherwise happen, prove that every neighborhood deserves beautiful spaces." He turned to look at her. "And I want you to run it." Lena's breath caught. That's huge, Adrian. "I know. That's why I'm asking you, because you understand what matters, because you'll fight for the communities that need fighting for, because you'll never let profit be more important than people." "When would this start?" 2 years. After we finish the current projects and I can show the board that this model works. After we've proven that investing in communities isn't charity, it's smart development that makes cities better for everyone. Lena looked at the building below them, at the neighborhood spreading out toward the harbor, at Emma laughing in the garden Adrian had funded and Lena had designed and Miguel had brought to life, at all the pieces coming together to create something bigger than any of them alone. "Yes," she said, "I'll do it." "Just like that?" "Just like that. Because you're right, this is what matters. Not luxury condos or office towers. This. Communities, people, spaces that say you're valued." Adrian kissed her and Emma made exaggerated gagging noises until they broke apart laughing. "Gross," Emma declared. "When I'm in charge of the foundation, there will be no kissing." "You're going to be in charge of the foundation?" Lena asked. "Obviously. Someone has to make sure you grown-ups don't mess it up." They stayed until full dark, until the city lights came on and the rooftop garden transformed into something magical. Then they went home. And it was home now, Lena realized. Adrian's apartment that was slowly becoming their apartment, filled with Emma's dinosaurs and Lena's sketches and the life they were building together. 3 months later, Lena got a letter. From Claire. It was short, handwritten on expensive stationery, and it said simply, "I saw the photos of the Red Hook opening. You were right, and I was wrong, about everything. I hope someday I can build something a fraction as meaningful as what you've created. Congratulations." Lena filed it away in a drawer with all the other artifacts from the past year. The threatening messages, the legal documents, the photos from the groundbreaking, evidence of how far she'd come. Proof that the girl who'd walked into that restaurant expecting humiliation had walked out of it with a life. A year after the Red Hook Center opened, they held an anniversary celebration. The building had become everything Lena had hoped. A community hub that served thousands, changed lives, proved that investment in forgotten neighborhoods wasn't charity, but necessity. Mrs. Rodriguez's daughter had a thriving catering business. The dance teacher had expanded to 5 classes a week. The recording studio had produced 2 albums from local artists. The library hosted after-school programs that kept kids safe and engaged. The meeting rooms facilitated everything from AA meetings to small business workshops to community organizing sessions. It was alive. Actually, beautifully alive. At the celebration, Lena gave a short speech, talked about lessons learned, mistakes made, the reality that even good buildings had flaws, but what mattered was how you addressed them. She talked about the 3 new projects underway, the foundation being established, the future they were building. And at the end, she thanked the community for teaching her the most important lesson of her career, that architecture wasn't about buildings. It was about people, about creating spaces that said you matter, your dreams matter, your life has value. The crowd stood, applauded, and Lena felt it again. That sense of being seen, being valued, being enough exactly as she was. Later, after the celebration had ended and the building had emptied and it was just her and Adrian and Emma sitting in the garden they'd built together, Emma asked, "Are you happy now?" It was the same question she'd asked a year ago, but the answer felt different this time. "Yeah," Lena said, "I'm happy. Not because everything's perfect, it's not, but because I'm doing work that matters with people I love, and that's enough." "Good," Emma said, completely satisfied. "Because if you weren't happy, I was going to make you take a vacation. Daddy says you work too much." "Daddy works just as much as I do." "I know. That's why you're perfect for each other. You're both kind of workaholics, but in a good way." Adrian laughed. Out of the mouths of babes. They sat there as the city settled around them, as the building hummed with the ghost of the day's celebration, as the future spread out uncertain and promising. And Lena thought about the girl from Millfield, Ohio, who'd once believed that wanting more was greedy, who'd been sent to a restaurant as a joke and found her whole life instead, who'd been told she didn't belong and decided belonging was something you built, not something you were given. That girl wouldn't recognize her now. And that was exactly the point, because the thing about being broken down, being told you're not enough, being set up to fail, it either destroys you or it teaches you that the only opinion that matters is your own. That success isn't about what other people think. It's about looking at your life and knowing you built something real. Lena had built something real. Multiple somethings. Buildings and relationships and a career that mattered. She'd taken every attempt to make her small and used it as fuel to grow bigger. And she wasn't done yet. There were neighborhoods all over the city that needed what Red Hook had gotten. Communities that deserved beautiful spaces. People who'd been told their whole lives they weren't worth investing in. Lena was going to prove them wrong. Over and over, one building at a time, until it wasn't unusual for poor neighborhoods to have architecture that rivaled wealthy ones. Until community centers were as thoughtfully designed as luxury condos. Until the girl from Ohio, or wherever else, wasn't an anomaly, but the norm. It would take time. Years, probably decades. There would be more fights, more setbacks, more people trying to stop her. But she'd learned something important. She was good at fighting. Better at it than she'd ever been at staying quiet. And as long as there were communities worth fighting for, she'd keep showing up. "What are you thinking about?" Adrian asked, reading her silence correctly. "The future. All the buildings we're going to build, all the neighborhoods we're going to change, all the people who are going to tell us it's impossible. And I can't wait to prove them wrong." He smiled, and in that smile, Lena saw her partner, in work, in life, in the long fight to make cities better for everyone who lived in them. They hadn't started out looking for each other, but they'd found each other anyway, in the chaos of a cruel prank that had backfired spectacularly. Sometimes the worst things that happen to you become the doorway to the best things. Sometimes being broken becomes the thing that teaches you how strong you actually are. Sometimes the people who try to destroy you end up giving you exactly what you need to build something extraordinary. Lena had learned all of that, and she'd used it to create not just buildings, but proof that where you start doesn't determine where you finish. That being underestimated is sometimes the greatest gift because it means nobody sees you coming, and by the time they do, you've already won.